Okay. Ready when you're ready.
Ready? Okay. I'll call this session of the Wednesday, July 9th, 2025 DeKalb County Council is now in session. We'll begin with an opening prayer by Bob Kraft, please.
Let's pray. Father God, we just thank you for another day of life, another day to serve you, and to serve the residents of DeKalb County. We just pray that you would give us wisdom, give us discernment as we talk about the business of the county and the taxpayers. So we just pray that you would bless us this day as we go through budget times, our presentations, and spend a lot of time together. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Would you please stand for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, trust everybody has had an opportunity to take a look at the minutes. Do we have any additions or corrections to the minutes for the June 11th, 2025 meeting? If not, we have a motion to approve by Rick Ring. Do we have a second? Second by Amy Prosser. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, we have a couple of additionals and transfers. The first one is from the Change Academy, and this is from the Juvenile School Fund, Fund number 4116. It is for $120,610. And it is, juvenile is on a fiscal year, need to approve the budget funds for fiscal year 26. Was this included in the annual budget request? The answer is yes. How will this appropriation be used? It'll be used for wages. SS is Social Security, I assume. Okay. Supplies, incentives, telecom, liability insurance, equipment and building lease, testing services, contractual services, training, computer equipment. Is this a reoccurring expense? Yes. Will other expenditures be necessary? No. Was it discussed with the liaison? That was yes, and that was Amy Dembski. So they operate on a little bit different calendar, and I'll go through these items here briefly. The first one is appropriate to part-time, Fund number 10750, $56,405. The second one is a Juvenile Education Coordinator, Fund 11443. The amount is $6,637. The next one is Juvenile Program Coordinator, Fund number 11492. The amount is $10,703. The benefits paid back to the County General, Fund number 12400, $3,185. The next one is Office Supplies, Fund number 22110, $400. The next one is Incentives, Fund number 22255, the amount of $500. The next one is Laundry Janitorial Supplies, Fund number 22270, the amount of $400. The next one is Household Supplies, 22290, the amount of $800. The next one is Other Operating Supplies, Fund number 22730, in the amount of $200. The next one is Telecommunications, Fund number 33240, in the amount of $500. The next one is Liability Insurance, 33410, in the amount of $4,100. The next one is Utilities, 33540, the amount is $4,000. The next one is Building Repairs and Maintenance, Fund number 33680, in the amount of $50. The next one is Equipment Rental, Fund number 33710, in the amount of $1,400. The next one is testing services 33900 in the amount of $2,000. The next one is building lease, fund number 34080 in the amount of $23,776. The next one is travel, training, and education, fund number 34295. The amount is $1,820. The next one is contractual services 34330. The amount is $2,234. And the next one is computer equipment, fund number 44420. The amount is $1,500 for a total of $120,610. First of all, do we have consensus from the council to do these within one motion? Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion to approve? Okay, do we have a second? Second by Bob Kraft. Any further discussion or questions here? Hearing none, we'll call for the questions. All those in favor of approving the Change Academy School funding for the amount of $120,610 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. And our next one is also from the Change Academy, and it is a state grant for the Community Correction Juvenile, fund number 9128. And just one second here. Find that one here. Well, Susan?
Is it not on, in that first packet?
Got it, thank you. Okay, this is from JCC, Change Academy, fiscal year again for the fiscal year 26. Fund name is Juvenile State Grant. Fund number is 9128. The amount requested is $88,686. And the juvenile gift is also on a fiscal year. It needs to be appropriated, need to appropriate budgeted funds for fiscal year 26. Was this included in the annual budget request? The answer is yes. How will this appropriation be used? It'll be used for wages, Social Security, testing supplies, and equipment rental. Is this a recurring expense? The answer is yes. Will other expenditures be necessary? The answer is no. Was it discussed with liaison? Yes, and that was Amy Dembski. And I'll just read through these here. First of all, we want to appropriate to the Juvenile Education Coordinator, Fund number 11443, the amount of $41,500. The next one is the Juvenile Education Coordinator, Fund number 11492, the amount of $35,000. The next one is Benefits Paid Back to County General, Fund number 12400, in the amount of $9,986. The next one is Testing Supplies, Fund number 22190, in the amount of $200. And the last one is Equipment Rental, Fund number 33710, in the amount of $2,000, for the total amount of $88,686. Do we have consensus from the council to handle this in one motion? Okay, thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the $88,686? We have a motion by Amy Dembski. Do we have a second? Second by Bob Kraft. Any further discussion? If not, we'll call for the question. All those in favor of approving the Change Academy state grant for $88,686 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We do have a couple of transfers here. Okay, the first transfer that will need council approval is from the prosecutor postage to office supplies. Postage account is 33220 to office supplies 22110 in the amount of $900. Why is this transfer needed? We have had a need for purchasing more office supplies, including a document shredder, than were previously anticipated when budget for this expense. We are requesting to move money from postage as our need for postage is less than predicted at this point in our budget. Will additional appropriation be requested due to the transfer? The answer is no. Was it discussed with the liaison? And the liaison is Amy Dembski. Do we have a motion to approve? Thank you. From Rick Collins, do we have a second? Second by Amy Prosser. Any further discussion?
Dembski.
Amy Dembski, I'm sorry. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor of transferring the $900 from the prosecutor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. The next one comes to us from Human Resources. And this is from a couple of different areas here. The first one is from operating supplies, fund number 22130 to furniture and fixtures, fund number 44410 for $100. The next one is legal references, fund number 22410 to furniture and fixtures, fund number 44410 for $200. The next one is printing services, fund number 33310 to furniture and fixtures, fund number 44410 in the amount of $200. And the next one is, I guess, is that advertising, recruiting notices, fund number 33340 to furniture and fixtures, fund number 44410 in the amount of $250. And the last one is consultant fees, fund number 32840 to furniture and fixtures, fund number 44410 in the amount of $10,000. Total being transferred in Human Resources is $10,750. First of all, do we have consensus from the council to do this in one motion? Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have a, let's just hold on, let me back up here. Why these were needed. They want to purchase office furniture and use money already allocated to add to what we've already done. Will additional appropriations be requested? The answer is no. Was it discussed with the liaison? And that is yes, and that was Amy Prosser. Do we have any further discussion? And we need a motion first. Do we have a motion to approve? Okay, we have a motion by Amy Prosser to approve.
Second.
Do we have a second? Second by Rick Collins. Do we have any further discussion here regarding the transfer from Human Resources? If not, we'll call for the question. All those in favor of transferring the $10,750 requested by Human Resources signify by saying aye,
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion is carried. That concludes our additionals and transfers. The non-transfers do not require county action there. Next up, Randy, Airport. Morning, Bill.
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Who's the new guy?
The new guy, I know, right?
After he was hassling me last
Yeah.
meeting. Fair's fair, right? Well, the board has been working with Crown Jewel Marketing on our logo change, name change and all. And so they have been providing some potential logos. I'm not sure what gets put on your packet. Yeah, the logo that's at the top of the report is what currently exists. And I think Russ and Jason came up with that some 12, 15 years ago or so. These guys are artsy people, and they've pulled some things out of the ether that were really interesting. And you had to understand what it was to make it out as a logo. We've narrowed it down a little more to something that's, we think representative, and so we're getting a set of those back. The taxiway, taxiway A, which is going to be our only taxiway, is under construction. They've done a lot of the grading, stabilization. This week, they're going to start pulling up all of the 220-volt lights that run the entire 7,000-foot length of the runway, and they'll be replaced with new signage and new LED lights that will keep the cost of operation low and maintenance probably even lower, because those lights are 50,000 hours or something. And the airport actually operates on a pilot-controlled lighting system, so that if you come in the evening, you get on the airport's approach frequency, you key your mic up 5 times within 3 seconds, the lights turn on for 20 minutes, and then go out all by themselves. So we don't have to have somebody out there waiting. If someone wants to come in and land, pick up fuel, and take off, they can do that by themselves without any staff actually necessary to be there. We are looking at the property, that 70 acres that's to the south of the airport, for development. We've really, BF&S has kind of divided that up into 12 lots. And the first 4 all face Old County Road 427, and so, or Old State Road 427. And so we're looking at those areas for development in the future. And in order to get that started, we really need to know what kind of ground is there. I'm sure you guys are all well aware of putting up new structures. So we've contracted with GME testing. And after all the crops are off this fall, they're going to go out there and drill and see what the property is like and what it's going to take if we wanted to go ahead and develop that and start leasing out that property to, again, long-term goal would be not to have to be on the tax rolls. Short-term goal is just to move forward. So we're going to expend that money and get that done. We are actively looking at 3 new 8-position T-hangars that will pretty much go where the church was. We have to move the fence that jogged around the church, and that would give us 24 new spots for aircraft to be stationed at the airport. At some point in the future, the A hangar, or maybe it's the B hangar now, but the long old hangar that I used to use when I was flying back in the 80s actually impinges on the safety area for the runway and taxiway. And the FAA has said, next chance we get, they'd like that out. So we're assuming that that 10-spot hangar at some point will disappear and may be replaced with an 8-space hangar, but that's again down the road. But we're looking at 24 new spaces sometime in the very near future. And then the lunch fly-in every Friday, or every third Friday right before the airport board meeting. I think last week or last month when I went out, there was about 14 aircraft that flew in. For those of us that were pilots, you still have to maintain a certain number of hours, certain number of landings and takeoffs to keep your license current. And if you do that, then you don't have to go back for testing as often. And so we used to do that. We'd hop in the airplane and fly to Napoleon, Ohio to have a cup of coffee. Now, it was probably a $50 cup of coffee by the time it was all said and done, but it kept me from having to hire a flight instructor at $100 an hour to take me up for an hour and a half and make sure I'm still competent. So if anyone from the board is wanting to attend the airport board meeting, you're welcome to. Show up an hour early and you can get a lunch in the main hangar. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Did you say whether they were going to lease this ground for new development, or is it sell it?
Our thought would be to lease the property. We may participate in whatever construction goes on there, but we'd like to have an income stream continuous from that rather than a one-time purchase that,
And so that you can use that against lowering your tax rates out there. Is that what your goal is?
we would like to generate an income stream so that we could lower our tax rate, absolutely. Practically, our tax rate has only gone up 0.03%.
I watch it, yeah, I know.
Yeah, we're doing our best to keep the tax rate as low as possible.
Well, 2 or 3 years here, and it's been about 5, probably 10 years, when I was the board, they was able to lower it, and I think they have had to bump it up here in recent years, but.
Yeah,
But,
the minimum actually kind of went up a little bit, so I think we're at like 0.3.
Ain't it 0.33?
Yeah, something like that. So it's as low as we can keep it. Really would, an income stream would really help us get rid of that and just be out.
And,
It's still county property, and it's going to stay that way. It's not anything that we intend to, try to spin it off or anything, but it's still a county property and a county service, and we just would like to take the load off the county if at all possible.
And as
And
long
that's
as-
the long-term goal.
As long as the county and the airport maintain ownership of it, they can get the right type of neighbor in without future conflicts with the airport.
my next question is, if they bore it and there's a nice gravel vein underneath there, what are you gonna do then?
Well, and that's the problem, we don't know. Again, the FAA, I got a book about yay thick from Russ when I got on the airport board, and the section that I probably paid more attention to than anything was the one on compatible airport industry. And they want something that doesn't attract animals, birds and coyotes and deer and all that stuff. They want low impact to the surrounding area. They want not a lot of people. We don't want 1,000 people out there, and even a light aircraft that may go off track and crash into a building with 1,000 people in it can still do a lot of damage. So they want low occupancy, they want low impact to the environment, and something, they don't want 3-story buildings. We want low buildings so that they're not an obstruction. And so there's a long list of compatibility issues the FAA wants us to consider, and we'd like to do that and be able to, again, improve our revenue stream and make ourselves compatible with the county as much as possible.
Randy, if you do find a tenant that's compatible with the airport, if they would sell that property down the road, do those covenants apply to them as well then?
I'm assuming that's something we'd have to look at. I know there's somebody trying to develop some property on the north side of the airport, back by Dr. Buchanan's house somewhere. And we're talking through our attorney about covenants on those areas. I don't know what we would do with since we would own the property, I think we would be able to enforce any restrictions on the kind of business that would come in there.
That's the whole point of keeping
Yeah.
ownership of it.
Right, and then we guarantee we've got airport compatible industry or businesses in there. Industry probably is what we're looking for. I don't know that they're looking to add a lot of traffic and in and out, but something light industrial would be great.
What do you got? You look around other airports, a lot of warehouses,
Yes, yes,
industry that doesn't take a lot of employees to
Right.
manufacture something. And
yep.
Correct me, isn't there an elementary school right in line with the Kendallville Airport?
I couldn't tell you. It's been a long time since I flew in and out of Kendallville.
Up north of Kendallville?
Yeah, I think there's a small elementary school, but I think it's within a mile.
I don't think so.
It's an old elementary school.
Yeah,
since
Green-
childcare.
Oh, sorry.
Green Center, is it?
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Childcare, yeah.
Right. And of course, I moved here in 67, and I think you guys, that airport went out there in 61, 62, something. And, it used to be out here where a lot of density.
I wasn't here yet. I was still on.
So, the airport, when we moved here in 67, there were still airplanes flying in and out of the Auburn Airport, the city airport. Not for long, but, it was in a very dense area where it had to go over lots of populated property, and so moving it out south, I think, was a great idea. We just want to make sure that what comes in around us is compatible with us. And because when I worked EMS, we used to go over to the Avila Raceway, and when they let them build 2 housing additions on either side of the raceway, guess who got shut down? The raceway had been there before and first, and when all the neighbors started complaining about the noise on Saturday night, the raceway went away. And we'd like that not to be an issue with the airport. So compatible, what we're looking for.
Okay, anybody else have any questions for Randy? Thank you, Randy. Sure
Okay.
appreciate you coming in.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
Okay, about right on schedule. Cheryl Lynch, funding 2026.
Good morning.
Morning.
I am not Cheryl. My name is Alyssa. I'm the first deputy RN at the DeKalb County Health Department. Unfortunately, Cheryl is unable to be here today, so I will be talking to you guys about the Health First Indiana budget for 2026. So we were approached by a couple different council members after we had learned what our budget projection was going to be for 2026 regarding this fund. There were a lot of concerns revolving around what health department programming was going to look like with the new budget, and also what partner programs were going to look like with our budget as well. So we were asked to come and present today to see if the council would considering helping fund either a partial or all of our partner funding for Health First Indiana for 2026. So hopefully you guys had a chance or received this packet. This is just a great informational piece that talks about a lot of what our partners are already doing within the last couple of years working within Health First. It talks about the budgets that they have all received from us, and also core services that they've been working in. But the most important piece is the last page here, and that talks about all of our applicants that have applied for 2026 funding. Again, it talks about the partner, how much they've asked for, and what core service that they would be functioning under.
I'm sending it now. I didn't have the paper. I only had stuff from commissioners, so I didn't know what they were talking about.
When did we, I know I've seen it, Alyssa, but I don't remember when I got it.
No, it's totally fine. I believe Cheryl had sent it. I don't remember when, but I know that she sent it.
Weeks, probably.
So, yeah, so I apologize for that. Bill's got
I
it over
just-
there. I don't know if anyone wants my copy too. You
I
are happy
emailed
to-
it to everybody.
Okay.
Sorry.
Perfect. If you all have a chance and want to learn some really great detailed information about all of our partners who are getting funding from Health First, there is a QR code on the bottom that you can scan, and it takes you to all of the RFPs for each applicant that applied for funding in 2026. So again, really great information. Hopefully you guys get a chance to look at it. But I'll just go ahead and jump into kind of what 2026 is going to look for us. So next year, we will be receiving between 26 and 27% of this current year's budget. So if we're talking in dollars, we will be receiving about a little over $226,000 worth of funding for all of 2026 next year. Unfortunately, because of that budget, we're not going to be able to support all of the programs that the health department is currently involved in, as well as supporting all of our partners that we were looking to fund in 2026. And that's super unfortunate because we worked really hard over the last 2 years to build these really great relationships with all of our partners. And they're already doing really incredible work in the community already, just providing happier and healthier residents here in DeKalb County. So once we received news about that budget, we obviously wanted to be very transparent with all of those organizations So at this time, we have already voiced to them that we currently do not have funding to provide them in 2026 to consider any programs or that they are doing, they're using for programming for Health First Indiana. So that's obviously our biggest change and our biggest struggle that we're kind of working through right now. But there are a couple other things that I do just want to like quickly hit on and mention that are kind of going to affect our budgets into next year and a little bit into this year as well. So as of July 1st of this year, tobacco prevention and cessation is no longer a core service that we are able to continue funding with Health First dollars. So again, this means we're losing more great partnerships and more ways to help make DeKalb County residents healthier individuals. So we have already canceled MOUs and funding with a couple of our partners and are reallocating those funds into for services that can be supported by funding. Our next big topic is now Health First funds can only be used for Indiana residents as well as legal US citizens. So this kind of becomes an issue for us when we're talking about communicable disease case management is just one example. A lot of individuals who are coming into our health department do not meet that criteria to receive services under that fund. So we have projected, or we have asked for in our health fund for 2026, a 2% increase in some of our operating supplies because we still have an obligation to treat and provide diagnostic testing for any individual who's coming in, and that is just to promote safety and wellness within our community. A couple more things, last things here. One of the other accounts that we are expecting an increase in is in our contractual services. The health department currently receives a grant for Public Health and Bioterrorism Fund, and that fund allows us to hire a preparedness coordinator that not only is doing work in doing the deliverables related to that grant, but they're also running communication exercises, they're running drills, they're going to classes, they're making sure all of our MOUs are up to date. There's just so many great, valuable things that they're providing for our health department. And when we received our budget for this new budget period, we learned that there was going to be a $5,000 reduction in the amount that the grant we would be receiving. So we kind of did our research and learned that a preparedness coordinator is something that is required with Health First dollars. So to supplement that individual's pay and make sure that we are compensating them for all of the services they're providing, we are supplementing $5,000 from our Health First budget to cover the cost of that individual. Also, another required individual that we are required to have through Health First is a school liaison. We currently are working with Emily. She has been fantastic. She is a great connection point between all of our schools, making sure that she's providing them education. She's running drills with them now. She's doing a lot of fantastic things. Also, outside of the school work that she's doing, she is also participating in all of our fatality review teams, which is a lot of work. She is definitely very utilized when it comes to that job. Last point I just want to make is that Health First Indiana funding did replace two other funds that we had been receiving in the past. And those two funds were the Local Health Maintenance Fund and then also the Indiana Local Health Department Trust Account. So when Cheryl and I went and looked back at previous years, Health First Indiana, even with a reduction in 2026, is still providing more funding than either of those funds did for us. So it's great to know. And then also, we still have funds left in those accounts and are planning on using those for any type of larger purchases like vehicles or vaccine storage. So it's nice to know that we have those accounts to fall back on for those larger purchases, and we're not needing to rely on Health First funds as of now with how unsure the future is looking. So yeah, that is kind of everything I've wanted to talk about. I know it's a lot, but I do appreciate you giving me the time to talk about these issues. I know it's a difficult time to talk about all of this, but again, I just appreciate you listening, and again, giving us the opportunity to represent the health department and all of our partners through Health First Indiana. So thank you, and I'm open to any questions you guys have.
Well, number one, I appreciate all the work that you and Cheryl and the entire department do. It's unfortunate that we lost that large amount of funding because the issues that that funding was to address still exist.
Yes.
Indiana is still obese. We still have a high number of smokers and apparently drug abusers also. And I just read a report or saw a report this morning that is now CDC is saying that there has been a huge amount or a huge increase in pre-diabetes of young people. And trying to address these issues, I mean, you know, we're all worried about Medicaid and everything else that it's going to cost us, but if we don't fix the initial problem, those medical costs are going to continue to go up. Hopefully, the drug-free Indiana, can they still support the smoking, obesity, or any of those?
So, drug-free, what we were currently working with them was in smoking prevention cessation, and that was what they had applied for.
Do they have some funding that's coming from a different
I believe they do.
source? So they're not
From what I
maybe going to go away.
understand. Yeah. So a lot of our partners are looking into funds from other sources at this time, obviously. But I can't speak to where everyone is getting funding from or who they're applying to.
And as far as the emergency preparedness coordinator, that's the fund that I used to manage regionally. And it's a federal fund that is a pass-through to the state and then down to the counties. And I'm actually surprised it's lasted as long as it has, that I thought it would be going away, but that was a national issue that they cut that funding, and so all the states got it. But what you're doing for emergency preparedness is extremely important. And taking care of illegals, non-U.S. citizens. If you get a case of measles or tuberculosis or anything else, it could infest this county if you don't address them. So it is very important. And hopefully we can, the one thing I was disappointed as I was looking up some statistics a few months ago, I don't see any changes in the charts that they were putting out to support the funding in the first place. So hopefully they continue to give us updated information. Did anything change? And of course, nothing changes in a year or two.
And
I mean, it's going to take a
what's
lot
so hard
longer.
about this is like, we didn't get the opportunity to show what this funding can do and help improve our numbers and promote better health statistics within Indiana. And data takes time in health. I mean, we're usually 5 to 10 years out for getting numbers for this year now. I mean, it's just really difficult. So I've been talking with the state and determining, is there a way that health departments can try to collect some sort of data on our own? It's really hard because all of our departments are small, but we'd love to see how all of this stuff is affecting our counties. And when you're working with your council and your commissioners, they want to see the numbers, and that's totally understandable. But is there a way that we can kind of gather some preliminary data to take back to all of you guys to show you how well this is working or how we can make improvements and what needs to change? So that's a hard thing, yeah.
Plus, I think you said that many of our partners do have funding sources, other funding sources besides us. correct? And you know that they're reaching out for those. And as I'm looking through some of the applications, I think some of these maybe do have some data. They've been here in our community for a while, Northeastern Center, Parkview, Purdue Extension. Wondering if they can provide you any kind of information about, what has been the success.
I definitely think that is something that we could reach out and ask about. More than likely, that data is just related to what they are seeing in their establishments. So yes, that is definitely something we can take into consideration when we're looking at numbers.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Great question. Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions for Alicia? Thank you, Alicia. We sure appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's
Thank you
lots
guys
to
so much.
look at and think about here.
Okay, and we're back tomorrow, so if you guys think of any questions between here and then, please feel free to ask them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How's Cheryl's husband doing?
Huh?
How's Cheryl's husband doing?
He's, from what I've heard, he's doing okay. It was a pretty long night, but I think he's doing okay, preparing for surgery.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Mr. Ben Parker, are you ready? Always.
Glad I read the agenda. I didn't know I was supposed to be here today.
We're glad you looked at it too.
So I brought some information up. I'm not sure what all you guys are looking for from me. Last week I tried to attend and time got short and I wasn't able to stay for much of the meeting. But Rick reached out to me as far as getting you guys some cost estimates of what the highway needed to be funded, where we're at currently, our current shortages, along with getting our roads up to an average pacer of 5 and higher. So that all should have been emailed to you guys last month from the auditor. I hope you guys received all that. I'll touch some base on some of that here real quick with you. And Jen Sharkey was also in last meeting and went over the wheel tax with you guys, along with the new legislation that's changed for the formulated funds to the counties and the CCMG funding changes. State's made a lot, putting a lot more back on the locals, unfortunately. Fortunately or unfortunately, I guess it depends how you want to look at it. But on these forms that I sent you guys, I've got a breakdown of the life cycle maintenance cost per mile per road, depending on how the road was built, whether it was a conversion road or if it was a hot mat road, chip seal road. So we're looking at an average maintenance cost per year from $13,000 per mile up to $15,000 per mile per year, maintenance cost per road. And then we also got a section here from $8,500 to $10,300 per mile per road on the sheets that I provided you guys.
These are the sheets that you provided last month, correct?
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Yep. So in that same section, when you go down, there's a area that was highlighted in red that gives the breakdown of what we need per year to operate. So this included our annual chip seal, our microsurface. I figured 3 miles per year gravel conversions, because people like us to continue working on that, and that's what we kind of historically done. There's been years we haven't done any, so that amount could maybe be adjusted, but if we only did 3 miles per year for our current gravel, we'd be 88 years before they always come back converted. So it'd be out of my lifetime. I also have our gravel stone maintenance. That will be for just maintaining the current gravel roads, our signage, our road striping, the dust control that we apply on the gravel roads, and along with our highway drainage tax that we get charged by the surveyor. That is all paid out of my maintenance restricted funds. So that total maintenance cost is $5,113,712 a year. Right now, out of my budget restricted funds, we are appropriating roughly $1.9 million. The commissioners has historically always given me $1 million out of their light of the budget. Some years they've given me more, 1.5. That's been the last couple of years has been $1 million. So we're at 2.9 million that what we're paying right now to maintain. So with that number, we're $2,213,712 short to maintain what we currently have.
Give us those three numbers again, Ben.
So we're at $5,113,712 to maintain our current infrastructure. We are putting 2.9 million funds towards it. So we are short $2,213,712. Now that is not including the $1 million grant that we've been applying for every year from the community crossings and been successful on, but that is all changing. So that is one of the big concerns I have going forward with our funding, because you guys are aware of what's changed in the community crossings matching grant. If you guys remember from Jen last month, that X amount's going to Marion County, some's going to Railroad, and it's going into the Highway Formulated Fund, which is the lane mile fund. So that is distributed out based on your lane miles, but in order to receive them funds, the county has to have an enacted wheel tax or excise tax, excuse me. We do not have that. That fund, that formulated fund, there is no guarantee. It's a huge range from, like, shown for DeKalb County from 700,000 to 2.1 million. So we got a big variation in there to how you plan to budget for that. So that number is really hard to build a plan off of at this point in time until this program gets established. We see how many people get in the wheel tax involvement. Cities and towns can apply for it now through the new legislation. The counties can. There's 36 counties in Indiana that has not gotten a wheel tax yet. If they all apply, that's going to change that formula. The price of, or the fuel efficient vehicles, it's going to change that revenue, because that MVH revenue fluctuates every month now as we go forward. My understanding is also that the lighted fund is going to go away in 2027. I think it's the last year that's given to the commissioners. That's all going to go to the county general. I hope the county council realizes that and still funds that $1 million or more to the commissioners to help the highway, because that could be also detrimental on our funding. So you'd have to look at that in our annual cost. So there's a lot of moving parts with the highway funding coming forward. So that's one thing that's really unknown. The other thing that Rick asked me about was to get our roads up to a 5 or above. That was also given to you guys. This sheet here will be an additional on top of our current maintenance. So I broke that. So basically we need $10,247,768 as of today to bring our roads up, all of our paved roads to a 5 and above. Now I want you guys to remember, this is a living document. Our roads change every year. This year alone, from the hard freeze, in my current budget, we've cut just over 10 miles of chip seal, and I've also cut out a paving project that was scheduled this year due to the extra repair costs that we had to absorb from the harder winter. So them's things, it's the unknowns that happen in the highway business. But if we took our cost, what we needed, broke down by 5 years, we would need an additional $2,049,554 per year for the next 5 years to get our roads up to a 5 or above. And I've got it broke down to even 10 years, $1,024,777. And we've even got it at 15 years at $683. But them numbers are really starting to get irrelevant, because I mean, you get that far out, your conditions are going to change so drastically. It's just a number showing you basing today. I don't want to go. Yes. Yeah, and that ain't including inflation, costs going. This is all based off of today.
And the excise tax and the wheel tax can also cover our needs for bridges.
Correct.
And our bridge funds have been short. I mean, we created a separate section in Hume Cap to help cover what we didn't have in the actual bridge funds. So
Right.
where are we at with, I know you evaluate bridges also. I mean, that's been one of the things that's been brought up to a couple of us, especially in the farm community, that, you know, if this bridge goes out or if this bridge has a restricted weight limit, now I gotta drive 4 miles around the barn to get to where I need to be, and it's costing them money in that respect. So we gotta keep our bridges up too.
That's correct.
So,
And right now, DeKalb County, prior commissioners, my predecessors, has done a good job with the bridges. Bridges are very expensive and can be a lot of maintenance. We have one, well, actually two bridges that's restricted, one being a covered bridge, which is a given. We have one other one that's posted for EV, which is emergency vehicles, which is a substantial weight. But for the most part, the county is setting in good shape. But we have a lot of projects coming due here soon. Even, for instance, the Bridge 17 on County Road 79, that's just a deck overlay. That's not a rebuild, and we're just shy of $1 million for that. I got Bridge 503 here on Auburn Drive that we just put out for engineering. It goes over Cedar Creek, that's due for a new deck and maintenance underneath, and that's probably, I'm guessing, $300,000 to $500,000 for that cost. So, you know, that's just maintenance. You know, that's not any different than going out and resurfacing the road. The decks go bad on the bridges. And we have 103 bridges in DeKalb County. And that's not including our small structures. We only inventory small structures, I'm talking pipes under the road. You got your 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 12-foot diameter pipes. We only inventory down to 3 foot. We have, I believe, like 360 of those. And we have several down 15, 24, 12-inch that we replace daily. And that is also all paid out of the Hume Bridge Fund. So there's a lot of moving parts with the highway that people don't think about that we maintain with those funds. So
The Auburn Drive Bridge, that's county responsibility.
every bridge in the county, unless it's on a state road, is our responsibility because everybody pays into the Hume cap.
that's statewide, Rick.
Yep. Yep. Bridges in Auburn, Waterloo, Garrett, if they're in the city limits, they are ours. If it's over 20 feet long. Now, it did change the small structures, which historically DeKalb County's had that theirs, but they are the city's responsibility if they're in their road net. The last page that I showed you, got put with you guys, give our current pacer rating on our roadways. So, not to be a Debbie Downer, I want to give you a little bit of light too. We've been inventorying these through the pacer system when we was required since 2016. In 2016, our average pacer scale was 5.23 network-wide. In 2024, we're 6.36. So we've been making some headway. You know, that's, don't look like a huge number, but when you figure the amount of mileage roads we have and the money we've had, the preventative maintenance we've done, that is something that we're very proud of, that we've been successful on, and we're doing the best we can with the dollars we've got. So right now, roads rated from a 1 to 4, we're just over 50 miles yet. But like I said, that can change from a big construction project down the road.
And that doesn't include the gravel roads.
That does not include the gravel roads. That is paved roads, correct? Yes.
So Ben, what I'm hearing you say is that the state is shifting a lot of the road responsibility down to the county instead of the state, right?
For the funding.
For the
they're trying
funding,
to, yes,
correct.
because now see, I want you to remember, last year, the state gave out $332 million in community crossings matching grant.
182.
332 million.
32, okay.
And it was pretty much everybody that applied got awarded. Now they put $100 million cap on it. So you think that difference, and now counties, cities, and towns all can apply for that million. The last 2 calls, the state had enough surplus money that they allowed any local entity to apply for 1.5 million. They also took that away. It's back to $1 million cap. The only thing that they changed that could potentially benefit us is that they took it from a 75-25 match to an 80-20 match. We'll get just a little bit more funds.
We have 92 counties looking forward.
If you got 92 counties that go after it, after 100 million, that don't leave much, and that's not including the cities and the town. And that all comes out of the same pot.
And I think we need to clear up the fact that the state is not shifting anything over to the state, over to the counties. Local roads and streets have always been the responsibility of the local government.
Right.
They have provided a way to get that funding through the gas tax.
Correct.
That's shifted down to the departments. They have given us another option of a wheel tax if you need more than what has been provided. But it's always been the local responsibility, not the state's.
Yes, understood that.
Yeah, and the highway department is strictly funded off of gas tax.
Right.
The only property tax revenue we get goes into the Cume Bridge, Cume Cap tax. And that's for bridges and small structures. And then I guess you could count what the commissioners gives us as a net
Right.
tax as well.
So that will be coming to the council instead of the commissioners in 2027.
It will be up to the council to appropriate money to the commissioners. That is my understanding. Is that correct? So that will be your guys' control on their money coming in. That's what I'm asking you. I hope you still consider that and what they've given us and help fund that for them.
Right.
Because it's going to be a big impact to us.
Previously, there were some restrictions on giving money from the general fund over to highways. That restriction's been lifted.
So
We do have
out of
that ability.
general fund,
We have the ability to do that now.
Okay. So
You know,
we could
back
help
when
pay for the
they
rest.
enacted the 50% rule on the counties, that was House Bill 1220 something, don't count me on that. But when they did the 50% rule, so 50% is restricted, 50% is unrestricted, some of the counties I know absorbed some of the cost from the highway department. The county general started paying for their health insurance or their social security or liability insurance out of the county general. Some of them even did the salaries. Right now, the county highway funds the county highway. That is all funded out of my MVH budget. The county general does not pay anything into the highway at this point. So that is another avenue. I'm just tossing ideas out that money changes around, that there is options. It just depends what you guys want to fund. The wheel tax, if you guys are comfortable with it. I know they went through the amounts. We can utilize the funds. And the facts here show that. It just comes down to what you guys are comfortable to give out and what line of service you want to provide. Because I don't like
Amy,
paying.
when the lighted goes away and that money all goes to county general, then it is extremely important to remember that piece of that, which I'll have that, but, so that we can continue helping the highway department. But even doing that and even a little extra, there's no way we could make up that, whatever, 2.2 million
Right.
each year that is needed.
Right.
I just wanted to clarify that for everybody.
That was what Jeff Peters explained last week, right? Last month, basically what he touched on.
So that's the need to be competitive to try and get the community crossing money each time. And in order to be able to get the highest level of community crossing, we have to have a wheel tax.
Well, I can still, without a wheel tax, I can still apply for the $1 million grant. I will not be eligible for the formulated fund. The extra that we will automatically get based off our lane miles of the left revenue. That's why that's a roller coaster. But my concern is if they don't see us helping ourselves,
Correct.
how much grace are they going to give us if we apply for that million? I don't know that. You know, that's a consideration to think about. And I'm guessing they're going to lean a little heavier on the cities and towns to give them the money first. And then the counties that didn't want to succeed the money that was offered to them by helping themselves to get that extra, I just foresee
Right.
them not favoring.
Which is no different than us helping ourselves with like community corrections grants and different grants that we have. Like, we fund some of community corrections. We show that the county is helping in that avenue, or central communications, different things like that. We help with like the repair and maintenance of funds that don't come out of the specialty funds. So it's kind of the same thing. It's just something new that we have to get to, so we can
It's just
keep.
the state is putting that tie on you to get that, you have to do that.
Right, so there was, I think you broke it down a little bit more of saying part of the funding, the grants, we would still be eligible for without the wheel tax, but there's additional grant dollars that are available if we pass the wheel tax.
It's not grant money, it will be given money to us.
Automatic.
It's automatic.
Automatic with the
Gotcha,
wheel tax.
gotcha, okay,
Where right now,
not grant.
the grant part of it, he has the ability to get more than what he'll be able to get going forward.
I think bottom line is, we're responsible, and the legislature has made the county councils responsible for quite a bit more than they ever have been, as far as decision-making for the direction the counties are gonna go. It's a compliment to the commissioners and to Ben that our roads are in the shape they're in now. They've done a good job. Ben does a good job.
Thank you.
And he is not directing us, he's not directing us in a bad way, but in a very good way, in a very structured way that we know where we're gonna be 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road here. DeKalb County's growing, and we're not gonna change that. People from the Allen County area, they're moving north. They're not moving south. They're not moving west. They're not moving east. They're moving to DeKalb County. And anybody that lives in the southern county, part of this county, can see that and understand it. We've got to have good roads. That's the only way you can connect us to schools, shopping, any kind of travel, work. We need those roads. They have to be in good shape. I think that I just want to compliment Ben and the commissioners because you've done a great job keeping us up, and we need to not fall behind.
Appreciate it.
Hey, Ben,
Yes,
you say right now, everything, you're $2.2 million short, right? Is that what you said earlier?
yes.
Now, we've talked about everything we can apply for if we had wheel tax. But what Jennifer gave us last week, and is that if we go to the maximum, which we haven't discussed or anything, that would give us $2.3 million as far as the county goes at tax.
I believe that was the right number.
So that would help you, even if we don't go max, anything in that tax, whatever we set a rate, if we go ahead, I'm not sure whether we got enough votes or not, that will be applied to your shortness, right? And everything.
That short did not include any of the community crossing grants, so typically we've gotten $1 million.
Yeah, but yeah, I understand that, but see, we can raise that much money, that's what I'm saying, is that we can raise it, because, I mean, as anybody knows, and I agree with you on the roads this year. This is the first time I have seen County Road 4 be hurt with the winter. In the 20 plus years I've lived there, that's the first time. And the other thing is, you said bridges and stuff. I know you have a weight limit on the bridge on County Road 24. Is there any time soon that's going to be upgraded, or?
That bridge is kind of interesting.
I don't want to get off our subject, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah, that one's in the 5-year plan, yes.
That's not going to be a cheap bridge.
No, because there's muck in that area, there's a skew in that bridge,
Yeah.
and I think it's like 90 feet long. So yeah, when we did the one just to the east of it on County Road 35, that was in 2018, I believe we did that bridge. And it was just shy of $1 million.
Yeah, but that was 7 years ago.
Yes. Yep, and bridges costs has went up substantially. Concrete's went up substantially, steels went up.
And I got a question to ask you. If you put in 100-foot culvert over a creek, you don't have to put in guardrails up, right?
It depends on the footage off the roadway.
Subject, but yeah.
Right. Correct.
One of the other things that we asked Jennifer for when she was here last month, and Ben did send it to me, Bill, you and I talked to Jennifer about a standard for paving a gravel road. And that Steuben County process, you emailed it to me the other day, and it's rather extensive. More than I would have thought of, but it's something that the commissioners should probably look at, because you're going to get hit up, and you better, have a way for them to evaluate whether or not they're going to do it or
Historically, we
not.
do the roads that's caused us maintenance issues. Them's the ones we've been working on. We just did last year, we did 57 from 68 down to Allen County, down to Cheney Road. That road gets so much traffic since they've got Amish businesses and things down there, it was causing us a huge maintenance issue. Those are the roads that we've been working on converting in the past, because it makes sense. And so I can justify the roads that we've done, but as we get those done and move forward, I think we could still justify a lot, but if they wanted to have a process where the people could apply and do that, we could create that if the commissioners decide so. The ones Steuben County had, they had to be unanimous that all the adjoining property owners would give up X amount of right-of-way to the county. And the problem that Steuben has with that, the landowners are happy to do that, but the farmers that have all the farm property down there won't do that. They don't want to give up that extra right-of-way. So therefore, since they don't live there, it's not bothering them as much. That road won't get done because it has to be 100% cooperation. So, but it's a process we could look at if the commissioners decide to go that.
I have to say, I go all across at least 2 miles, sometimes 2.5 miles of dirt road going from one farm to another. And you guys do an excellent job. Those roads are the smoothest roads we take our trucks and our tractors across. And I mean, when we're jumping from County Road 4 to 12 on those roads, those are, I would never want them to be changed to tar. I know I have no say, but.
The biggest problem with gravel roads, especially ours, I mean, I feel we have good gravel roads. I mean, for what they are, how we maintain them, I think we do really well. It's the dust. And there's certain times of the year in the spring when the frost comes out, they get sloppy, they get muddy. I mean, they're burdensome. I can't deny that, but that's what's been there. And the county also, the commissioners in their lighted funds, I pay for all the calcium chloride out of that. And this year it's close to $370,000, I'm speculating. That's a courtesy that the county does, the commissioners do. Because there's no legislation that says we have to apply dust control. And I really wish a lot of the people in the county on the gravel roads would appreciate that a lot, because there's a lot of counties that don't do that. I could really use that $370,000 towards paved roads and things, and.
With the new provisions that townships can give money for road projects, I wonder if those townships that have a lot of dirt roads would help subsidize that cost.
There might be. Some of the trustees I've spoke to just briefly about this made comments, well, I ain't got any money to give you.
And
I said, well, that's great. I understand, and I don't know how that bill's written for sure. I don't know how that's all set up yet. I haven't been involved in that a lot. But any little bit would help. But
by the time they get through poor relief and fire, whatever their fire responsibility is, that probably cuts down a lot on what they've got.
I'm sure.
There are some, and maybe they're not any of them in DeKalb County, but there are some townships across the state that have large amounts of money that's unused or unappropriated.
I want you guys to know, I know you guys have got a big decision here on this wheel tax coming your way, whether it's this year or next year. I commend you for doing it, talking about it, looking at it. It's not an easy decision. Nobody wants to pay taxes. Nobody wants to pay more. I respect that. And I'm not here telling you guys what we have to have. I'm showing you the facts of where we're at, what we need, and letting you know the funds we can utilize. But I also want you to know that I'm going to work with whatever you give me. I'm not going to be here breathing down your throats and giving you a hard time. I'm just here to support you guys, give you the facts you need, and hope to answer any questions.
I have a couple questions.
Yes?
Okay. On this page, that is to raise all the roads to a 5 or above.
Okay.
That $10 million value, that is to get them all done in like 1 year?
If we did them all right
All
now,
right
that
now.
would be 10 million.
Okay, so hypothetically speaking, we did them all in 1 year, you would need that 10 million, plus you would need the 5 million over here on
Right.
this red box, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then below the 10 million, the 5, 10, 15, that would be if you broke them down and did so many a certain year,
Right.
like every 5 years. Okay, then my next question is, this is from Jennifer
Yes.
Sharkey. So it goes through getting the community crossings match all the way down to this red box. The red box that says CCMG direct distribution. That direct distribution is with or without a wheel tax.
That would be with.
So
Because they're saying in here, estimated CCMG direct distribution amounts range from 700,000 up to 2.1 million for DeKalb County. So that would be
Okay.
if we have the wheel tax.
thank you.
That's what we could get in that formulated funds. Now, if you remember, when she was in here, the first year, I can kind of look here, because they was going to hold the CCMG funds, that extra funds, other than 100 million for a year, let that fund build up a little bit and then distribute that out. So the first year, she was showing us a pretty good amount. So because it says 2026, no CCMG direct distributions to local units. 2027, DeKalb County estimated could see 1.6 to 2.1 million. In 2028, DeKalb County could see estimated 700,000 to 1.3 million. And then in 2029, DeKalb County could see 1 million, 1.5 million estimated.
That's all if we had a wheel tax.
If we had a wheel tax, and there's a big variation in money there. I mean, because what we can do from 700,000 to 2.1 million is substantial.
Is that in our June packet?
If not, I have this
Finding
presentation.
it there. What's it?
I can send you guys
I
if
can
you don't.
send it. I think I also sent it separate.
Okay, in an email? All right, I'll look.
Yeah, but I can find it.
Yeah, that's the presentation, Bob, that Jen gave.
I was missed last month.
Oh, you did, that's right, yep.
Cannon.
Okay, I want to just interject a few things here. We've talked about the wheel tax at the county level for at least the last 30 years. And we've been prudent. Our highway commissioners, the council, and the commissioners have done an excellent job of staving it off and working without it. We're at the crossroads today where we're going to have to step up and we're going to have to make the hard decision. We can't keep putting this off. We're going to either accept it and work with it, or we're going to put it off. But we're at the point we can't keep kicking the can down the road anymore here. We've heard all kinds of numbers here, and regardless of how prudent we've been and mindful of the taxpayers and not wanting a tax increase, the state has basically backed us into a corner where we're going to have to do something. It's not DeKalb County anymore. It's if we want to get additional funding, if we want to continue on, we're going to have to do something. And this is just me speaking. I'm not in favor of a wheel tax personally. But I think we're at the crossroads now. We're going to have to take a real serious look and real soon on this. We can't keep putting it off whether we're going to put one on or not. The question is going to be, if we do, at what level here. So our hand is forced. We're going to have to take a look here as a council today, whether we want to go to the next step and where we want to go from there. Next step is going to be, if we take a look at the council, if we are in agreement that we want to pursue the wheel tax, then we're going to have to go to a public hearing. And then we're going to have public input. But we're going to have to get the ball rolling. We just can't keep talking. You've done an excellent job, Ben, of showing us all kinds of scenarios and numbers and everything. I mean, you've really put a tremendous amount of work in this here, and you've been very responsible with it, and we're grateful to have you on board to do it. But this is no reflection on anybody in the council, commissioners, or Ben. We're being backed into a corner here, and our hands are getting pretty well tight. Open for discussion.
Whether you want to say anybody backed us into a corner or not, the fact of the matter is, maintaining roads costs money, and we can only generate so much. And we're given an option. Do you want to generate what you need or as much as you can, or possibly might need. How do I want to say it? Because we'll never, I mean, yes, you can go for the world and go and just bring in all kinds of money. That's not reasonable. You know, we have to be respectful to the taxpayer. But we need more money to maintain our roads. That's the bottom line.
And I just want to add, there isn't anybody in this council here in favor of the tax increase. So when I meant backed into a corner, it's, we need the money, we have to, but the state is doing a lot of shoving here, but there isn't anybody here.
You know, and more so than just this wheel tax. I mean, a number of things are changing, and to possibly give property tax relief, they're switching a lot of things over to local option income taxes. So maybe not this year, but next year, we're all going to have to make a decision on local option income taxes. Where before, it just kind of went along on its own. It was driving its own bus. Now they're going to say that, council, you need to decide year after year, unless they change that. Every year, you're going to have to make a decision on what that local option income tax is going to be as far as an amount. Whether or not it truly gives tax savings in the end, who knows? You're going to take away from what's being funded with property tax and add it up in income tax. For all we know, it'll come out the same. It might come out less, it might come out more, but it's the position that, quite honestly, at least the gentleman that was ahead of the Ways and Means Committee believes that's exactly how taxation should be. That we should be making that decision on a regular basis. Putting it to a vote and letting the public have a comment and not just be automatically driven by property tax. So that's where we're at. And so it's a job that is tough, and we got to make the decision, hopefully, on what's right for the county and what's right for our citizens, and not what's going to get us reelected. That's not the way any of these decisions should ever be made. It should be, the uppermost should be what is right for the county, what is right for maintaining the optimum living conditions for our citizens. Make that decision.
So, Don, I'm looking at you for guidance. Our next step on this would be to do a vote whether we want to pursue a wheel tax first or not, and then go from there.
Wheel tax and excise tax, it's, you have to do both. Yeah, if you want me to prepare an ordinance, proposed ordinance.
Do we have a sample of what we voted down the last time? You probably wrote it.
Yeah, I already drafted a proposal, so.
Do we need an initial vote to say go ahead to prepare first?
I would like that. I don't want to, you know, if you don't want me to do anything, I'd like to know that. If you want me to do it, I'd like to know that too.
No, and that's fine. I think that's the first thing we need there. Roll call vote on whether we want to pursue the wheel excise tax and have you prepare an ordinance on that. Okay, does somebody want to make the motion?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, and we have a motion by Bill Van Wy and a second by Rick Ring to prepare, to authorize Don Stuckey to prepare an ordinance here in pursuit of the wheel tax, excise tax. Okay, we'll do a roll call vote on. Is there any further discussion from the
Yes, we would
council?
still have public.
Oh, there will be a public hearing. This is just to get him to get the ball rolling here, one way or another.
I think it's very important, it's critical for us to get public input on what level, if we're backed into doing this and we have to do it, which I don't like a wheel tax either, and I don't want to do it, but if we have to, I want public input on what level is acceptable to the public,
Absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely.
There will be a public
My question was the time frame. What will that look like then going forward if we start that ball rolling today? What does that look like? Are we voting on it this year? Are we waiting? Like, what's that time frame? I don't understand what that.
It would be nice to have it voted in by the end of September, I believe, so that we can.
1st of September.
1st of September, is it? So that we can start getting it in January.
So
If it's after September 1st, then it's an entire another year away.
So will we? Go ahead, Dave.
We'd need the ordinance prepared for next meeting, and then determine a public hearing around this schedule between now and September 1.
And I think that the issue between September 1 and September 30th, and we have to go back and look at what was done before, but it has to do with the fact that after we get something done, it has to go to the DLGF for approval. If it doesn't have that approval, then
It
it
is
can't.
September 1st.
Is it?
I pulled my thing right
Okay.
here.
What'd you say, Susan?
September
It is
1st.
September 1st.
Any ordinances that affect vehicles that are 11,001 and over, the ordinances must be adopted as sent to DOR on or before September 1st, 2025, to be effective on January 1st, 2026.
Just so you know, the deadline for passing it to qualify for the grants is July of 2027. So you'd still qualify if you didn't do it.
Okay.
But I was also advised at the seminar, you better get things going.
Well, and I think that if it's delayed for any reason, say you passed it in October, it would be effective January 1 of 27
Yeah.
instead of January 1 of 26. So you'd still
Correct.
pass it this year, but it wouldn't be effective until the following year.
Which would,
If I'm saying that correctly.
which would cause us to be in line to get the money that we
Right.
want
Still be
without losing
eligible
anything.
for that.
We don't have to rush through this so fast that we're not getting the input that we need for the public.
At the AIM seminar, the deadline is July of 2027. You have to have it done or you cannot apply for community. The second,
Formulated.
the formulated funds, the community crossing grant.
This would be a big
So if we did it, say we did it just before July of 27, does that mean we wouldn't be qualified until January of 28 at that point?
That's correct.
Right.
So it's to our benefit.
Wouldn't be collecting the tax till 28.
28, correct.
However, you would qualify for the grants. You would still qualify for the grants.
Any further questions from the council?
My other question is, if we pass this, and that's if we have, can we have the ordinance voted on tomorrow? Since we're here, or we gotta have a regular meeting?
Don't we have to have a public hearing?
Yeah, I don't think you have to have a public hearing for the wheel tax.
Oh,
I don't think it's a
sorry.
bad idea, but I don't think you're required to have a public.
But I mean, for the ordinance, we have to have a public hearing for that?
No.
If we could draft one for tomorrow's meeting, is that too much of a rush?
Yes.
yeah.
Well, first of all,
Okay, but
first of all,
everybody,
you have to
everybody
tell,
just said they want public opinion.
No, I'm not talking, we have to have a public hearing, but the ordinance, so we can move to a public hearing.
now, I have to know a couple things before
Oh,
you
wait a
can
minute.
finalize. Number one, are you doing the percentage or the flat rate? Okay, and then what is the flat rate? Because I can provide you an ordinance with a bunch of blanks, but your input is.
So I have a question, this is from what he's trying to ask. When we do like an abatement, we have a preliminary and then we have a declaratory. So on this, we want, just have a public hearing and vote on one ordinance, correct? Or do we have an ordinance they're gonna vote on to get us to a public hearing and then another ordinance?
No, there's just one ordinance. And you can have a public hearing. It's not required or mandated, but you certainly can have one.
Okay. So there's not an ordinance that you need to pass before we invite public?
Okay, so this is just,
This is just so that he can start working on the ordinance once you get other decisions
yeah,
made.
but why do we have to have it passed before we have the public hearing, is what I was,
We don't have to have a public hearing.
that'd be the stupidest thing we've done.
I'm just saying, that's just what
Can
he
we,
said. No,
can we
disagreeing with you.
have the ordinance come back at our meeting in August? And then, in order to get it passed, or defeated, because one way or the other, we have a special meeting towards the end of August, so that it's before September 1.
I think that's a good idea, Rick. I mean, I think that that's probably what's necessity. If we're going to try to do it before September 1, it would have to be a special meeting.
Yeah.
I don't think we come back and try to pull this off the second Wednesday of August. I think there's still as Amy says, this is a process. We gotta have a little bit of time to think it through, work it through, wash it, sleep.
We've got to have the public be able to comment on it. Whether it's a public hearing or just having them come in and comment on it, you can't do something like this without giving the public an opportunity.
Absolutely.
And the council needs to keep in mind, we're not passing a wheel tax today. All we're doing is giving the approval to our attorney to prepare a wheel tax, excise tax ordinance. That's all we're doing. That does not mean that we're in favor of or against. This is the first step getting it going.
Combine them into.
It's getting that, but you will have to be able to advise him on whether you're doing flat percentage or whatever, or he won't be able to get you an ordinance.
You have to fill in the blank, and that's what you can decide or discuss at the next meeting in August.
Can that be discussed at tomorrow's meeting?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so right now, you guys are voting on whether you're gonna have your attorney move forward with creating an ordinance to come back to you.
Right,
Okay.
regarding wheel tax, excise tax.
Correct. Okay, so Collins,
Yes.
Prosser. Dembski. Kraft.
Yes.
Ring.
Yes.
Van Wy.
Yes.
And Yard.
Yes.
Okay. So motion passes 7-0.
Okay, thank you. I think we know what we're doing, and does anybody have anything, any questions or anything right now? Either for Ben?
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on now to the council discussion. Bill Hartman, do you want to, Callan, talk about the long-term investment?
No, that's the treasurer.
Okay. Gotcha, thank you.
Paper to pass out for all of you.
I'll give it just 1 second. Rick said don't start talking until he's back.
What time do you start?
I've actually,
Yeah,
What time do you start?
8:30.
8:30. This is the budget, right? No, I'll try to be over first thing. I'm gonna try to get a draft. But Debbie is my problem. So she's going to the doctor this afternoon, so.
I can kind of start off, tell you what I gave you there at least, if that's okay. What I gave you is a copy of the county's investment policy that was approved by the Board of Finance in January. Our current investment policy allows for investments up to 2 years. What I'm proposing is an amendment to the current investment policy that would allow for investments greater than 2 years but less than 5, which we're allowed to do, but it takes council approval to do so. So in the policy that I gave you there, on page 3 in red font is the amended portion that just has verbiage in there about the 2 to 5 year investment term. So the policy would remain exactly the same. It's just council would give me the authorization to invest between 2 and 5 years. Where right now, historically, we've only done, maximum of 2 years. We've never done the 2 to 5 years. Also in that policy, it has to be stated an expiration date of the long-term portion. And so the long-term portion of the investment policy would expire at the end of the treasurer's term, so not to exceed 4 years. So basically today, I just want to get council, see if council will approve the policy so that we can look at options. I've not even explored what the options are for long-term investments, what the rates would be, anything like that, because historically we've never invested, like I said, beyond 2 years. We have currently in CDs, the county has $24.8 million invested. And those, like I said, max out at a 24-month term. They're all laddered. They start maturing. We have some this month, next month. They're laddered throughout the next 2 years. So
Do you think that we should, since we're amending it, do you think that we should put in here somewhere on like the interest going back to the fund, specific funds and not just county general?
I don't know that that has to be in the policy because it's not in the current investment policy, I don't believe. I think that's a discussion, like we can do that outside of the policy, I believe. Like when we invest it, we can determine, I know you and Sandy previously during investments have, there's some we've invested that are specific to a fund and.
Yeah, okay.
My question, when I was asked about this yesterday, is specifically if we're going to invest the money from the rainy day fund, that interest definitely goes back into the rainy day fund. But my only concern is that rainy day fund is there for emergencies. And how are we going to handle that if an emergency comes up? I mean, we just have to cash in the CD and lose the interest? Or?
Right.
Yeah,
So that's what would happen in an emergency. We wouldn't invest in anything where we would lose principal. We would lose interest if we had to cash it in an emergency.
I think we probably should put it in here, and the only
Okay.
reason why I'm saying that is because when I was working with the state and trying to figure out the drain part, every question back to me is, what does your investment policy say? So I think it would be helpful if we did put some kind of verbiage in here with that, so that we can black and white show them this is what.
Then it's going to have to go back to the Board of Finance if you're going to amend it.
Right, right.
Which when do they, I mean, it's the commissioners and Joni.
Right, we
When do
can
they-
schedule a meeting to. Like I said, I haven't looked at any of our options or anything like that. My plan would be to work with a reputable investment advisor to give us guidance. I've also reached out to Jeff Peters to see what his thought process is on it, because he's very respected. He knows the county's whole financial picture. So I've reached out, I've not heard back from him. I would obviously stay in communication with the auditor for what the cash flow needs are for the county and that. So also what I've given you there in your documents, there's a sheet that's got some interest rates on it for the last 10 years. That is Trust Indiana's rates, and that's where a majority of county money outside of investments, a majority of county money sits in Trust Indiana because we get a very good interest rate on that. So that's where a majority sits, and that shows you the 10-year history. You can see that the last several years, we haven't really needed to pursue long-term investments because the interest rates have been very nice, but they're going down. So now is the time to look at locking them in, for a longer term. Our last CD bids in May for just, like I said, we're capped currently with the policy at 24 months. We were getting, our interest rate last time was 4.25% for 12 months or 4.02% for 24 months. Today's rates look around 4%. We're hoping maybe we could capture even higher than that if we explore the bond market, something like that. I have not looked into anything because first step is getting a policy approved. The second scenario, or the page that I gave you that has some yellow highlights on it, that is a list of scenarios of what $2 million looks like invested the way we currently do. So investing it for 2 years, turning around when it matures and having to buy a new CD at potentially half the interest rate of what we have when we buy it now, versus if we would just get a high interest rate from the get-go and invest for 4 years. So kind of shows you, I did it on 2 million, 4 million, and 6 million, just for examples. Nothing says we have to invest more than what we currently have invested. We can wait until those mature and then, when we repurchase a new CD, invest long-term on a new one. It doesn't mean we have to necessarily invest additional money. That's something, obviously, once a policy is in place, then I can take a look at all of that and decide. But essentially, having the policy would be a tool in our toolbox. It'd be available if that would benefit the county in the best interest.
since that's not recorded, I don't have to worry about that statement. But we only invest a maximum of 25% of our,
Right, so right now, we have $24.8 million invested. The way that the state statute is, 25% of your investments can be long-term.
Oh,
So no more
25.
than that. So we can't, if you had $30 million invested, that's what, 7 point something million can be in long-term. So you can't take all the investments, I can't lock them all up for 4 years. It would only be 25% of whatever the county has invested.
I have a question maybe for Susan and the commissioner since they're here. When does our community corrections bond pay off? And will the commissioners be looking at starting on the jail right when that pays off? Or will be even before, you know, will we need money available in 2 years?
That's that's lit money, so it's all gonna depend on what changes happen with lit and whether we keep part of it to be able to pay that off, or how, we don't have all that direction yet.
Well, we can't pay it off early, the way I understand, right? It has to go.
No, but I mean, on the county part, on when the lit changes with the state, there was discussion on being able to keep a certain amount of what you had with lit, to be able to pay the rest of the bonds until they were done. But not everything has been set in stone yet. So community corrections doesn't pay off until December of '28.
28,
So we're still learning on
3.5 years.
what happens with that money and where it goes and what it does. I may find out more in a couple weeks when I have auditors conference. But right now, we don't have set in stone answers on what all is gonna happen with it.
I mean, that answer is good enough because that's 3.5 years, so that'd be 4 years before we needed any substantial funds. We'd have funds available to pay for design work and things that you guys have to do in advance of that 3.5 years, but that's not gonna be millions.
It also depends on whether or not you're gonna, bond for the project, go to a build, operate, transfer type thing, a lease arrangement, there's.
Right.
The
You just don't want to lock up.
The commissioner's got a lot of work to do before we are to that point, but, and she can't invest it any more than 3.5 years anyway, because she can't go past her
Right.
term, so.
But, yeah, I just didn't want to have money locked up if it was 2 years away and it was locked up for an extra 1.5 years that we can't access to start something if the commissioners decide to start on jail work.
And that's why I wanted to make sure that the interest rate in the, what's ever in the rainy day fund goes back into the rainy day fund, because I look at that as being a down payment on that jail, so.
Susan, one thing, you had a question about specifically stating the funds. In that first paragraph of the investment policy, it says for investment purposes, unless specified otherwise, all funds, the interest basically should be combined in a common pool. But if we specify, I don't know if that breaks it down enough for what you're asking, because it says if it's specified otherwise. So if we specify it when we invest that,
That might work.
does that cover it without having to amend the whole policy?
Yeah.
Does it mean otherwise specified
In the policy? Exactly,
That's
that's-
what I would think, that it would mean.
A question for Don.
That's a legal.
Well, I think it could be outside the, and I think it's, a policy has to be adopted by the finance committee. As long as it's adopted by the finance committee, it's okay. And it's in writing, which everything is in writing.
I think we should, and I only think we should because they always ask me what this specifically says. Which we have all kinds of different funds that we invest money that we're gonna have to play around with.
And if you put it in this policy, you don't have to worry about, omission.
Right,
Do a specific investment,
right.
you're just not thinking about it, so. There,
So we would do, Board of Finance would approve to amend this, and then it would come back to council to approve the amendment, okay.
So Board of Finance would have to approve it first, and then,
So we could do that at their next meeting. We could make it work.
So we just need to wait until we get the,
From the Board of Finance.
The amended.
Yeah, but she wanted you to know what was coming down.
yeah, but no action today.
None.
Anybody else have any questions for
Good
John?
question. So you were saying we could invest 25% of our 24.8 million?
Or whatever we had invested.
Okay.
So if we chose
Right.
to invest more, the maximum we could lock up long-term would be 25% of whatever the total dollar amount was.
Who determines the amount that we decide to put into that long-term investment? Is that the council? Is that you? Okay.
Treasurer.
That's you. So you get to decide how much that is. Okay.
Correct.
Perfect. Good deal.
And she does work with me to know,
Sure.
you know, because I would know more of if you guys.
She sees
have
the
certain-
funds, I see the bank,
Yeah.
so.
Sure. Well, and I just remember that your office under Sandy, great job, and I know she's been training you how to
Yep.
to do these investments, so it's a great idea. Thank you.
Appreciate you, the forethought of trying to maximize what we can get for the county. That's a good job.
Right, we know those rates are coming down.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for working with Commissioner Dooley and bringing this to us today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for Joni? Thank you, Joni.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Commissioners, Bill, you got anything else to bring up?
Jim Miller does.
Jim? Okay, great.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
I have 2 copies of the proposal at the commissioner meeting.
They all have it.
Oh, they have it?
I gave it all to them.
Okay, all the better. On page 6, it shows the project cost of $62,000, which the commissioners accepted this proposal. And so I am here on behalf of the commissioners to ask the council to give us approval to spend the $62,000 for the space study as presented, and to answer any questions you may have.
I'll make that motion.
What does it come out of?
General fund.
Wherever you guys tell me you want it to come out of.
I'll make that motion
Okay, you're making a motion to do what?
to authorize the expense for this study.
Do you want to specify a fund or not?
Well, but it could change. It could change if they give us a travel costs or any of that stuff.
No,
Like a-
The 62 is the
travel
limit?
cost is included in this one.
Yeah,
All right, okay.
Total cost to be $62,000, and that is inclusive of all reimbursable expenses on page 6.
So I'll make a motion that we
so
do it at
And I
that
guess I
limit,
don't know-
62,000.
were you guys planning on using your lighted funds or county general, or did you have an idea of what you were going to use?
I presume county general, is that correct? Yep.
Okay.
Could you restate your motion, please, Rick?
Make a motion that we authorize the commissioners to spend $62,000 on this space study by the Ox agents.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Bob Kraft. Any further discussion from the council?
Did we decide in that motion it's coming out of the general?
He didn't state it, but I got it.
You got it?
You good, Bill?
No, but we can continue.
Okay, we will continue. Any further questions?
Who's
Just want to say that I think this is a good idea. We've been asking for this for several years, I think, and there's a lot of opinions about county buildings and stuff, but to actually have a study that makes it the most efficient and have an outside person, firm come in and look at that is a good idea. So thank you guys.
We will do our best.
Any further questions?
Is there a phase to this? Meaning, is this just for a phase one and then there's a further, based on what they find, a further presentation and another cost involved later? Or will this include the entire study?
It should include the entire study. When the study is complete, the commissioners and the council will get the final results that should tell us this is what you have, this is what we think you need, going down from, in my mind, from 5 to 10 years, what the county's facilities should be in the 5 to 10 year period.
And it's every department, everything we have.
Yep.
All the properties we own, where we should do stuff. And
I expect this agency to have a personal talk with every department head at the very least. And it has to be part of that study. It has to be. Otherwise, we're getting results that don't reflect the true nature of what we're after. We need to have, yes, they need to spend the time and at least with the department heads and every department head for every facility that we do have.
Is there a time frame on this? Does it say, is it in here?
Yeah, it should be in there.
Okay,
Yes.
I haven't had time to look at it.
Yes.
All right, that's fine.
I can look up the page if you want me to.
No, I'll look at it.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
I understand we're shutting down the operations at Sunny Meadows. Will this study include what next comes for that structure?
It can, yeah, absolutely it can, yes.
I mean, somehow where we've got to decide whether it stands and looks pretty forever or comes down or just what takes place there.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Yeah, it's a structure.
Yes.
It needs to be part of it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Any further questions? If not, we'll call for the question. All those in favor of approving the motion for the proposal for DeKalb County Building Assessment Feasibility Study signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Is there anything further to come before the council?
I have one thing. St. Joe, Spencerville Regional Sewer District, they have a board appointment that is open, and they have sent a letter of recommendation to, they're asking that the council appoint Lynn Reinhardt to fulfill the term from August 1st of 25 through December 31st of 2028. And I believe this was Dwyer?
Yeah, this is Arden Dwyer. Jim Dwyer's spot is vacated. And I did talk to Lynn about this Monday, I believe it was. He will be very active, and I think that's one of the issues that the commissioners have had to deal with over the last year is things have been missed, things have not been addressed, and Lynn's not somebody that's going to allow that to happen in the future. He will keep them on the straight and narrow, so I think it's probably a good idea.
Okay, good. We need a vote from the council.
I'll make a recommendation. I'll make a motion that we appoint.
Okay, we have a motion and a second here for Lynn Reinhardt to serve on the St. Joe, what is it?
Spencerville Regional Sewer District.
Spencerville Regional Sewer District. Are there any further questions from the council? Hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
Okay, I just need you to sign above that.
Okay.
Only you.
Hearing nothing else. Ma'am, I'm sorry.
Thank you for your good work. I know it's a big struggle to go through these department needs. Is there something wrong with it?
Nope, I just hate seeing you stand on your tiptoes.
Oh.
There you go. It's wearing me out already. There you go.
Thank you very much for your good work and your attention to the needs of all the departments. I really, really appreciate it. You're doing the most difficult job in the government, and I want you to know I appreciate it. You could have a public hearing in August, or you could have a special meeting, but I've never heard of an ordinance like the wheel tax ordinance being considered without a public hearing. I mean, it's a simple matter in your next meeting or have a special meeting. But by all means, I strongly urge you to have a public hearing so we can come in and say, we go for it. We need the money. And we want to be able to say that in the public. It's participation.
Well,
Thanks very much.
The council is all in agreement. We will have a public hearing, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else from,
Can I have you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Karen Griggs from Ashley, Indiana.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
anybody else? Do we have,
Okay, so we're not adjourning.
we're not adjourning, we're
Okay,
going to
I didn't want
recess.
you, I knew where you were going.
Thank you.
We probably can just take a break and.
We're just going to stand to count, we'll be in recess for 10 minutes.
Or 20.
Probably 20. Our first presentation is at 10:40.
Okay, council is in recess until 10:40.
Hey,
Took a little longer than I thought.
we're good. Yep.
Okay, council is back in session. Ben Parker.
You guys hadn't heard enough of me today, evidently. So, boy, looky there, goodies going around.
Not right now. 85 pounds.
You ready? Okay. Well, I didn't know if everybody wasn't back in here yet. So anyway, I'm here about my budget for 2026 for the county highway. I'm just gonna, I've got a very large budget. I don't know what all you guys are looking for, what you want to hear, what you want me to touch on. But I'm gonna kind of hit some of the bigger projects, but if you have any questions, feel free to stop me or at the end, ask me anything and I'll do my best to answer for you. So in the cumulative bridge fund for next year, I'm looking at, I got a carryover, it might be a carryover item for Bridge 503 on Auburn Drive that I just started engineering on, I mentioned a little bit ago. So that money I reappropriated, or I probably will have to carry over for 26, some of that. In 26, I have Bridge 4 on County Road 64. I'd like to get engineering started on that one for some rehab work. And then the same thing for Bridge 7, that's on County Road 61. I put $150,000 in there for that one. In the CUME CAP fund, 1138 fund, we've got our countywide bridge inspections. We'll have our other big inspection for 2026. So I appropriated $160,000 in for that. Bridge 89, which is on County Road 24, that I was asked about a little bit ago. That one's coming up for some maintenance, so I put $200,000 in there for some engineering costs. In the 1169 local road and street, the big purchases for 2026 we were looking at is a new grade all. Ours is old and been breaking down a lot, and that thing goes out about every day. I've quoted, I've not bid anything, but it's looking at a new one. It's $655,000, so that's what I put in the budget. I'm going, if you guys approve this, I'm going to look at trying to find a demo unit that's sometimes available that for the size that we want, that I could save some money on, because it don't have to be brand new. The demos has got minimal hours on it, and you get a substantial savings. I'm hoping to find something along that line. And I have a pickup that we need to replace that I put for $50,000.
Is that, on that line item, you have what, 655,000, is that right? Did I read that right?
Yep. And that's out my local road and street.
Okay. What would a new grader cost?
That's a new grade all. That is the price that
That's the price of it?
salesman gave me, yeah. So I called him to put the budget number in there, and that's what he told me to budget. And I about come on my chair, but this stuff's expensive.
Yeah.
You know, so those of you who don't know what that is, the grade all is basically an excavator mounted on a truck. So then it's a mobile excavator that we go out and we clean our ditches and things with it. It goes out a lot. So it's a main piece of equipment for a highway department.
Typically has a real wide bucket,
Yep.
full of ditch level.
It's a 2000. Yeah. It's an early 2000. It's getting a lot of issues. Yeah, so we've been breaking a lot, and it was a demo unit, from what I understand. Yep. That's a lot. So we've got, it might be, it's an early 2000. So it might be like 01, 02, but it's early 2000. So we've had it 20 years. I need our distributors in bad shape. Actually, I heard on the radio coming here, we're spraying oil this morning, the distributor's down again. And that's another piece of equipment I need to look at. That's a 1987. We're still running. Yeah. So, I mean, we do our best to use what we have to maintain and keep going forward, but highway equipment is so expensive. growth, and then we prioritize of what we have. You know, dump trucks is our main item, and they're $325,000 a piece right now. I've got 17 of them. You know, and I've got a road grader I had to replace. That was $500,000 that we bought a few years back. The other one's going to need replaced. I've got rollers that are old, and I mean, I come into a department with a lot of aging equipment. I don't know how we got there. Where it could have been budgeting. It could have been. I can't answer. But we've done our best to improve, maintain. You see the price of the equipment.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, when I can only buy one piece of equipment a year, when I have the amount I have, it's hard to stay ahead of the 8 ball, unfortunately. We're doing the best we can. We've got very good mechanics that work a lot and actually save us a substantial amount of money. They're worth every penny we pay them. But if, yeah, any extra money that we could have to get some equipment updated would be very beneficial. But anything, I pretty much use my local road and street for that and salt and sand since the restricted come in. So if I could take the the salt and sand out of the restricted again, which I've been told that's starting to change or will change.
It's not no longer 50-50, is it?
It is until this new cycle. This is a whole long drawn out deal, but now we got to be certified road pacer scalers, which I just got certified. 4 of us from did. When we submit our asset, if we are a average pacer 6 or higher, we'll go to 60/40.
Average road, you say?
Average road.
6 or higher.
6 or higher, and we are just over that, yes. But with that, I've got to be a certified scorer. I got to have another certified scorer to go out and verify 10 segments of mine, and then we will also be audited by NDOT LTAP. We'll go around and verify our scores that we're scoring our roads correctly, just to keep everybody on the up.
And that change this year is coming about because County Council Association has pushed, and the Association of Counties has pushed very hard to eliminate that percentage split. Right. But there's a couple of legislators are very adamant that that has to stay. So they felt that a lot of the gas tax money they were given or places were given were not being put into the roads, but were being put into other things like cars and frivolous things. So that's why they put the restrictions on there.
And my LRS fund is not a fast-growing fund. You know, it does grow some every year, but it don't keep up with the cost of replacement of equipment like we would like.
Do you have a new dump truck on this, or just those 3 items?
Just them 3 items, no new dump truck. Nope. And the sad thing is, if I don't order one in 26, I'm probably going to have to wait a couple of years. It's 27, the new emissions come in. We don't want a new emissions truck. You're going to want them to go a couple of years. So anything that we don't order now or in 26, we're going to probably want to hold off a little bit. Each time that they go through and change all the emissions on these diesel engines, I don't know if you guys heard the horror stories, but there's always the first ones that come out, there's a lot of issues. I've got some internationals I can show you. So
Understand. Really understand.
So moving forward, the MVH restricted funds stayed the same. The salaries, I've left the same per your request. The salary increases, I know is your guys' discretion, but I hope we could see something, but I also understand the position. I think on the other form, if we was allowed, I think I did a 4% across the board. I'm just going through and looking for my big ones. I got notes on here, so. Like I said, I've got a lot of line items here. Looks like I haven't really increased anything else other than which was kind of being expected. We had to increase our electric and our gas quite a bit due to the new facility and being on NIPSCO utilities, I think had something to do with it. But that cost has went up pretty substantially from when we was in Auburn. So hopefully I've got that covered. There is one thing in here that I wanted to ask for your guys to please consider on, is that I had brought a contract agreement before the commissioners a couple months ago to start engineering costs on County Road 60 between I-69 and 427. There is a low floodplain area down there that has a high-rise, small structure in there that is, any of you been there, I don't have to explain much about it. You're well aware of what I'm talking about. That is something that I would like to get on a federal aid project. So in order to do that and also show the interest to NDOT that we're committed to this project, I brought it before the commissioners and asked if they would support this and to go ahead and start the preliminary investigations engineering on that. That way we'll have the cost of the project, the scope of the project, and then I have adequate numbers to apply for the federal aid. So I got an agreement put together. The commissioners have signed it. I've not sent it off because I'm waiting for funding. It is a contract not to exceed $228,800. And the commissioners have asked if I would ask the council if they could fund that.
What was
for
that
that
value?
engineering. What's that?
What was that number, 220?
$228,800.
Thank you.
So if that is something you guys could find somewhere and willing to help, that would be appreciated by the highway and the commissioners. That is a project I've been very concerned about for a lot of years since I've been here. Every inch of rain, if we get it directly, I got to close that road. And I tried to go after a 90-10 grant through NDOT 2 years ago, and they told me flooding is not considered improvement for safety grant. Because the safety grants was 90-10, and I tried to argue with them that, well, I said, flooding, you know it floods, you can sign it, but I said, I understand that, but you're obstructing emergency traffic from getting to residents a quicker route, now they got a detour, well, it wouldn't classify for safety funds. So I have to go after the 80-20 funds. So I'd like to do that. That is the last section of County Road 60 that we have not improved. We have improved from County Road 35 to 427. We jumped over to 11A, and after this year, that will be done to State Road 205. I've left that section out because when we improve a road, we also increase the speed of that road. And I don't want anyone heading west, going down a great road and all of a sudden go over 69 and hit that and
Go airborne.
because it will happen. And
Ben, are you wanting this money for next year or this year?
it would be nice as soon as possible I could get that started, but I will work with what you guys are privileged to do. And then also with committing with that, if we do this, it's going to be very similar to the County Road 56 project. And a lot of you wasn't here for that federal aid project, but when I apply for them funds, I'll have to have a council vote, and we'll have to have a payment plan, how we're going to pay for our match for that, and have an agreement by the council that will have to be submitted with my application. So no, with going with this, we're going to be committing to a project that's going to cost us several $1 million, I'm sure. I don't know that cost. I'm speculating that we're going to have to bridge that whole area. I don't think there's any other way that we can go through and build that ground up and satisfy the flood fringe. Because if we fill that, we'll be taking up flood area, and we'd have to create flood area downstream. And then with all the peat in that area, it may not support that type of weight. That's why it's important to have the engineering. So that's going to tell us a lot of the things that we're looking at, and then the type of money. And at that point, we can look at it. Let's just say our match is $2 million. I don't. Well, if you guys think we can do that, the federal aid money, it will be 5 years out from when we're awarded. If you guys say we can't do that, we can hold off at that point. But the longer there, again, we kick projects down the road, the higher the cost goes up, the more infrastructure we got that needs maintenance. I've got others that I would like to continue working on this process with. I just haven't pushed real hard on anyone because the county's been forced with a lot of big expenditures lately. You guys had the jail, you got community corrections, we had the highway build, we had County Road 56, we didn't know where we was going to end up at. And I'm going to bring up some projects at times, and hopefully we can start funding and moving forward and utilizing some of these grants. That I got to have the support and the match from the council.
Susan, where could that 220-some thousand engineering cost be paid paid out of? It have to come to the county general, or can it come out of lighted, or can it come out of lighted?
It can, not anything.
So,
Ben, you said this, pretty well.
269. Yeah, because prior, on the other side of I-69, we just put that new bridge in there, Bridge 9, that was constructed 2 years ago. And that road would be pretty good just for a minor rehab and repave, and that'd be fine. It's that small peat area that's, you know, I'm really surprised I don't get a lot more complaints. Yeah, I mean, it's a maintenance issue for us. I mean, it really is. And I want to make our roads safe, and that's something I know is a hazardous. I've seen cars down in there, that much of the top showing, because it's very deceiving. People don't realize, you look across there, don't look that deep. But that road goes down in that low area where it floods, and it gets deep, and it gets deep quick. So I got a lot of other projects, but I won't bring them all up today. But that's the one that I'm looking at right now. I'd like to proceed forward with, and hope I can have some support from the council. And whether we do it with this, or, I mean, you can go back to the commissioners on funding, but irregardless, if we go forward, I'll have to have a commitment at some point. Not until we do the engineering. They'll go out there and do soil borings and see how much is there and how deep it's there. Right. Correct. That's why I'm telling you, for the distance and where it's at, it's probably going to be bridged. They'll drive pilings, put helicoils down, build a bridge over it. The main concern that we have is there's a residence on the north side, on the west side of that swamp area, that will have to incorporate that driveway. So as we go up I-69's approach, you got their right of way, the bridge approach. They do make bridges with radiuses and things that can incorporate a drive, but that's going to cost the county if we have to go that way. But I won't know any of that until we get to engineering. We just don't know anything, what's there and what the hydraulics are going to tell us. There's a lot into this, environmental studies, and that's right. And unfortunately, DeKalb County has a lot of peat. We really do.
Does anybody else have anything for Ben?
Yeah, I hope I hit on the main points of my budget you guys wanted to hear. I'm here. If any questions, let me know, or you guys all have my contact. If you see something, if you have a question or concern, please reach out. I'd be glad to fill you in or answer any questions.
Good enough. Thanks, Ben.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate your help, and also on the wheel tax, if you guys need anything from me, I'd be glad to help. Don't hesitate to reach out.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, your honors.
I just wanted to say this. Judge Jessup is going to actually present for us. This is my real quick mea culpa. I got notified I had to hold an emergency hearing today. I had no time to do it at all, except for my bailiff's on vacation. I looked and I go, oh my gosh, I do. I have from 11 to 11:30, set that thing. I've got a whole courtroom full of people up there. I didn't have 11 to 11:30. That's when I was supposed to be down here for a budget, but I don't have a case, Ben. So what I'm telling you is I don't really think that I'm a major player, and I mean no disrespect, but I am going to have to head up there. I've got an entire courtroom full of people in a child in need of services case.
Because of some other.
Give me a break.
Question. I'm going to try. I'm going to try to get you something you keep asking for. I think they want to look at, there's some plaster issues up in your courtroom that need some addressing, and I think the commissioners have got a system worked out for all of this now, but I want to remind you to tell them you need hot water up there.
Yeah.
And to fix that.
I appreciate that. I needed that during COVID more than I did.
Well,
I do have some more information for you. So I got here at 6:30 this morning, and I got that monitor out there on the judges, and I saw this guy with gray hair, with a truck, the buster, cater. I saw him standing out there, and then he turned to walk
good man.
You're on, Your Honor.
Well, thank you. And I'm, aside Judge Grimm, short interjection, which was needed, I'm grateful actually to follow Ben, because I think this is going to feel small relative to what he's got going on. It does to me. You should have submissions from all three courts. You should see that from all three courts, there was a 0% increase as requested. The caveat to that would be that we did, pursuant to the separate form, request what I would call a cost of living adjustment or pay raise for staff, which would equate to a 4%, recognizing that things are tight and that things need to be considered going forward relative to that. But across the board, 4% would be the request there if the funds are available to do that. And from my perspective, relative to Superior 2 in particular, this is my first actual execution of this budget. This is the budget that I inherited, so in many respects, this first run might lead to future changes, which I hope will be cost savings, but at least adjustments. But as it is here, what you'll see is more or less the same reflection of what was requested previously. Two matters of note. One thing that actually came to the attention of the courts that we had to react to after this submission was made, and that was that the Indiana Supreme Court has notified us that the interpreter's language line is the most common way that we obtain interpreters, particularly on-call immediate need. In the past, that has come at no cost to us. That is no longer the case. There will be a cost associated with the use of language line, and of course, that is a service that we are required. We don't necessarily have to use language line, but they are generally the most cost-effective, and they are certainly the most responsive, particularly if you have any sort of obscure language involved. And of course, we're required to be able to provide those services. The Indiana Supreme Court's attempt to alleviate some of that was a grant application process, which we did do collectively as all three courts. We requested $10,000. They gave us $3,000. So we're getting $3,000 from them towards that cost. The $10,000 on our side was an estimate, because of course in the past this has generally come at no cost to us when if we have in-person interpreters, there's costs associated with that, which is what I've been able to do within my budget so far this year. But the other aspect of that is not over a longer period of time, we'll get a better feel for what the average cost might be. But in short spurts, of course, we can't predict when we'll need it and when we won't, because it depends entirely upon the litigants and the defendants that come into our courtroom and whether or not they need it. So just giving a heads up that that's a cost that we will have to provide, and we can't exactly anticipate what it will necessarily be. And it's not particularly reflected in our submission here because we didn't know about it until after the submission was made. Not nearly as substantial as some of the things Ben's asking for, but it is a reality.
Quick question on
Go
that.
ahead.
Because I still have the ability that I can add some monies in here. Would the courts want monies all under one of you or some money under each of you?
It really should be a little bit under each. The bulk of that, however, I would say should tend towards Superior 1.
Okay.
Just due to the volume of criminal cases, that's where it most frequently comes up. And between my court and circuit court, we more often can anticipate when that might occur.
But it can be one account and then just divide it up amongst the three, because generally we get a better price if we have one that's, use the larger amount versus dividing it up three.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day that however it works best to be most efficient is fine.
He missed what I asked.
Yeah.
I just asked that.
Okay, did you?
I got you.
Okay.
Said it differently than I said?
Yep, I got it.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, don't ask me to decipher the difference between all of the accounts. I'm still learning that part.
You're good.
The best thing that I've learned is if I don't know, call. So that's what we do. The other piece you will see that directly from me, from Superior 2, there was a capital improvement request, and that relates to technology in the courtroom. Again, acknowledge that things are tight and things are also uncertain right now. I spoke to Dave about this prior to submitting it, put it a little bit on his radar. I do have, if any of the council members wish to have it, and I can provide it by email as well, the estimate where that cost came from that was provided by New Era Technology, who does a lot of work with the IT department here in the county. That improvement that I'm requesting there is more or less a mirror of what was done in Superior 1 a few years back. And that's to bring it up to speed with being able, with audio-visual capability, not only to allow for streaming, but also to more efficiently handle jury trials. So if you want to see more or less what it is that's being requested, it is in place in Superior 1 already, if you want to get a feel for that. There's some minor tweaks that are relative to the space. Of course, my courtroom is smaller, so there's some tweaks relative to that. There were also a couple little minor things that I requested relative to us being able to activate or see the cameras from outside the courtroom when court is not in session, which would allow us to have a little bit more more security and have it a little bit more open because we can see what's going on in the courtroom without my bailiff having to sit in there at all times. If you've not been up there, the way things are arranged right now, generally we're not in the courtroom unless court is in session. Consequently, it gets closed up. I would prefer to allow that to be a little bit more open between hearings, et cetera, without taking my bailiff away. He's running 2 desks, basically, as that is, so that would allow for that. As you can imagine, the quote that I got relative to that was promised for 30 days, because a lot of it involves coax and AV cable and electronics that are all subject to the changing economic conditions that we're dealing with right now. So as we stand here today, I can't remember if it was actually June 9 or not, we're right at that point. I mean, if I went back tomorrow and said, can you update it? It might be slightly different. A year from now, it might be substantially different, might be better, might be worse. Don't know. That's where it was in June when they quoted it. Relative to that, I will mention, I say this is my first execution of this budget. I am already working towards where I can make cost savings, and I hope that some of that might lend itself to being able to complete that project when the council says we can do that. One of the things that I'll bring up, I have in my budget made full request for the legal materials that have traditionally been paid for through Superior 2's budget. And you'll see that on my submission, it's references account 22410, shows nearly $40,000. The bulk of that relates to subscriptions through Westlaw, which traditionally had been put in place by Clara Mary Weinbrenner and Judge Brown collectively to serve the entire legal community within the courthouse, the prosecutor, the public defender, all 3 courts. And they had arranged that and set that up to allow a better price for that subscription by doing it collectively. I have revisited that, what folks who are now in those positions actually need, and we think we can pare that down significantly. The issue as I stand here today is we're still under contract. So as I sit here today, I don't have an idea of what the new quote is relative to what we want, because they don't want to enter the negotiation until we get a little closer to that contract date, which is typically what they do. When we start getting close to that contract date, they're going to come knocking on my door every day. I'm now taking that over. Currently, obviously, the previous contract has the signature of Bill Hartman as president of the commissioners, but that was arranged through the prosecutor's office. I have shifted that with Westlaw and with Lexus. I am the contact person for that, and I'm taking it over. Prosecutor said, please have it. I don't want it. So
But the commissioners will still sign the contract.
the commissioners would still be responsible for the contract at the end of the day, yes. So I've requested that entire amount. We are still obligated for a portion of it right now, and what it might be going forward, I don't know, but my goal is that it will become smaller. Pending Oh, I do want to revisit on the capital that I'm requesting. I did seek grant funding for that, and as you can imagine right now, that well is dry. There's nothing available specifically for what I'm trying to do. I think the bulk of that, happened, as you can imagine, 2020, 2021, and the emphasis on that has slid to the wayside as everyone has tightened their belts relative to that. If something comes up, I will.
What is the function of the AV equipment in Superior One that you're trying to mirror?
All of it. So the main, well, there's a lot of difference, but the main things that you would see if you walked into Superior One that you won't see if you walk into Superior Two. There are televisions on the wall which allow primarily for display of evidence, but it also allows for facilitation of remote proceedings. As it stands now, the only way that I can do remote proceedings, for instance, by Zoom, is a standalone, which is significantly smaller, because the courtroom is smaller, than what you would see in circuit court. It is also relatively locked in position. We can't, when I walked in, I said, can we move that thing out of here when we're not using it? And the answer is actually no. It's more or less wired in. If we unhook it, we have to have IT back up there to rehook it because we don't have the capability to make it work. So it just kind of sits and takes up the space that I have very little of in that courtroom. Moving those things up to the wall will facilitate more of that. It also has monitors for the jury, for witnesses. It allows computer hookups for the attorneys to be able to present evidence in a digital fashion and participate in remote proceedings in a digital fashion. Literally last week, we did a remote hearing, and the attorney who was appearing remotely had not anticipated, oh yeah, I'm appearing remotely. And the attorney who was appearing present had not anticipated, oh, my opponent is appearing remotely. Consequently, we got into the presentation of evidence. We had to pause and stop to ensure that we could provide the gentleman who was on video with everything that the man standing in my courtroom was about to hand to me. Having those hookups allows that to happen like that, because almost everybody has it in that fashion, and they can just plug right in, and there it is, and it's up, and they can see it on their screen. It's being displayed in the courtroom, et cetera. So it smooths a lot of that. Obviously, I would like to be able to facilitate more remote proceedings. The Supreme Court, currently, we're still waiting for them to say they have floated a rule change with regard to the trial rules, that the way it has been proposed might require more remote proceedings. In other words, it would limit the court's discretion with regard to yes or no on remote proceedings, and perhaps mandate it in some scenarios. As it sits right now, my ability to facilitate that is minimal and difficult at best. If I had multiples in a row, we would struggle to stay on schedule. So bottom line is keeping up with where technology is going and how our society is evolving with these things. I'm going to have it. And it may be at a point that the Indiana Supreme Court says, you have to do it this way, and I'm going to be standing back down here saying, I can't do it unless I have this equipment. So I'm trying to put it out there now and try to get ahead of it a little bit. Go ahead.
Did you say, and I may have heard you wrong, that you were going to have a camera out in, or a screen out in the hallway so people can, you see what's going on?
No, I had not. That was not a part of what I had quoted.
Okay.
This setup would facilitate, and few of the courts around here do this. And part of that is some of the hearings you simply can't do it. The Indiana Supreme Court still facilitates streaming, and as you can imagine, obviously, as we're dealing with now with the new law, many things are headed that way. That's not mandated. You can anticipate the possibility that it might be at some time in the future. I don't know. Obviously, some hearings are confidential and simply cannot be. But it is still possible for public proceedings to be streamed through the Supreme Court. But I did not anticipate putting it up in the hall. I think that would be a disruption probably.
Okay.
And I mean, the courtroom's open. Folks can still come in and sit down. It's not,
I just asked, I thought that's what you said, I did not, I
No.
misunderstood you.
No.
I appreciate you explaining it to me.
Okay, yep. Inside the courtroom, everything that I proposed is inside the courtroom. Are there questions? Other things I can address? It's a 3-year contract, which should expire in November of this year. That's, now the provisions of contracts like this typically, it becomes month to month after that. I don't intend to let that happen. I attempted to start renegotiating it 3 months ago. Won't explain all the ins and outs of that. The long and the short is the other party doesn't have any sense of urgency yet because they know we're locked in at least until November. As it sits right now, monthly, just on the Westlaw one, about $2,100 a month we get a bill for it. No. Correct. It should come month to month, but I won't let that happen either way. They'll get ultimatum and clear in writing from me one way or the other.
Anybody have any questions for Patrick?
Patrick, you've done a wonderful job since the two older guys have assigned the new kid to have to do all of this. Sure you don't want to ask for something for them, or maybe take away something from one of the, Circuit's already left the room, so maybe we can take something out of there.
No, and I'll say that I've appreciated my colleagues as I've come in here for my first 6 months, as you can imagine, with anything new that you do. There are things that you don't anticipate, and they've been extremely professional and kind to me. As has Judge Brown, even in his semi-retirement, we've been calling him back quite a bit for special judge things, being open door. Yeah, hey, oh yeah, I've seen that before. Here's how to do it. Great. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I was the kid for a couple of years.
You're right. You had to suffer through. So
That's right.
He should have to also.
That's right. I thought Judge Jessup did an excellent job of presenting what the courts had commonly. As we do every year, the judges collaborated and looked at what we needed to ask. We are very aware that this is a challenging budget cycle, and so we tried to be very respectful of only asking for things that we absolutely needed to. To your point, Rick, Superior Court 1 has in its office area some plaster issues that need to be addressed. Hopefully that's in the works for whatever repairs are going to be made. I think that's important. The only other thing that I would add is to put in some support for what Judge Jessup is asking for with the technology. When that technology was implemented in Superior Court 1 roughly 2 years ago, it has been a game changer for us for the positive. It's helped us a lot. I can think, just as an illustration to you all of what we're talking about, we have had jury trials in Superior Court 1 where video evidence has been presented to a jury where a very minute detail of a video is the crux of the whole case, where I can think of one where a baggie was tossed out the window of a vehicle and the jury was trying to figure out if they could tell which occupant of the vehicle threw it out, and it required backing a video up and playing it and blowing it up. And we have screens that go up right in front of the jury, and it's critical for them to be able to have the best view possible of our evidence to make an appropriate decision about somebody's liberty and freedom, very high stakes things. And that has been of great assistance. I think that kind of exercise right now in Superior Court 2 would be a challenge. And so it is very important. It's important to the product of justice. These are not just things that we're asking for because we like to have cool toys. It's really necessary for the things we do. We didn't really change much, so I don't have much else to add. Does anybody have any questions for me?
How much, just curious, when you put your system in, how much did it cost?
You know, I don't know that because for whatever reason, when it came in Superior Court 1, it was in the IT budget. It did not come in through the Superior Court 1 budget. So I wasn't really involved in that part of it extensively.
Okay.
That may be right.
Before that, it was COVID. There was COVID money that did the majority of the court, and then ARPA funds did in here.
Anything else?
Anybody have any questions? Thank you, sir.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, judges.
Besa.
It's coming.
All right. So our IT budget hasn't changed much since last year, so I'll just open it up to questions if you guys have any questions on anything. So So the biggest thing that we're going to be putting in place will be, well, we're updating our backup systems right now. So I'm actually using money that was already allocated for putting in a server, and I'm using that for the backup because it falls within the same category, and that's a 3-year contract. So the biggest thing that in the next few years, in 2028, we'll have to renew that contract. And right now, it's going to be $150,000 for the 3 years. So renewing that'll be a big thing coming up. And then also we have WebEx boards. Actually, that's one right there. Those are all being out of support, and we're going to need to be replacing those by 2028. Yes. Yeah, so those are the two big ones that I have in the next 5 years.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Besa?
Okay, so they're on the, it looks, if I'm looking at the right thing, it looks like the individuals, it looks like you have one open spot.
Yes. So right now we have an open spot, and I have not hired anyone for that yet because I'm actually paying Jack out of that account because it's saving us some money that instead of going out to hire a full-time person, I brought in Jack at a part-time basis. So it's, yeah, so I'm not planning on filling that position anytime soon.
Any other questions? Thank you, Besa. Appreciate it.
Thank you. It's easier than I thought.
Best presentation so far.
First round.
Okay.
That means we get to go to lunch early, you know that, right?
I have one question then. So, I have 2 employees right now that are at their max. So if, let's say, raise was, were to give raises, for next year, I don't know what I am going to do to be able to give them raises because they're at the max of their, wage. So in that case, what do I do? Do I just come back to you guys to?
You mean for the classification they're in?
Yes.
Yeah, well, if we give raises, we'll raise those classes. Those will go up.
Those will go up as well. All right.
Now that, I assume that, because we have not discussed that at all. I assume that when Dottie gets here this afternoon, that those are kind of questions that we would ask. I don't know what the year inflation rate is, and I don't know what the average increases have been. I mean, got to ask some questions here yet. That'll be a discussion point later. What that'll be.
But I think the way that works, Susan, is if we say we're doing 3% for employees, then those classes will go up by 3% so that it can accommodate that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Neil's not here. We have 15 minutes.
He's on his way.
Oh, he is?
I messaged him.
Well, he's due to be up in 15 minutes from now. Dana's in the room. Are you prepared now, or could we give her the time now? She's the last person at the end of the day. Is
Oh, I like that.
that possible?
We just don't have her.
We just don't have the
Just yet.
paperwork ready.
So you don't want to look at, you don't want to go over that while she's. Don't want to.
Do you have a lot of changes, Dana?
Is your presentation more than 15 minutes?
If she doesn't have a lot of
Are
changes.
you buying lunch today? That's
Go
my
ahead.
final question.
Just go ahead, let's fill the time.
Go for it, Dana.
Come on up.
Do we have the presentation?
You wanting to go home early today anyway?
You know. Are we good doing it without you guys having it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I can, or she can make copies and hand out afterwards. Okay, so really I don't have a lot of changes. I'll start with my incentive budget. That's money we get from federal audits, time studies, money my office actually earns. So that's not taxpayer dollar. I have no changes in there really. If anything, I might have decreased a couple. So, any questions on that? Next is my clerk perpetuation budget. That is money that I earn, or my office earns, I should say, per an IC code, which I can provide to you if you want. So we earn that money for retaining records, marriage licenses, stuff like that. Again, no changes. If anything, I decreased. We don't have the need, like last year, we had to buy all new stamps with my name. So I had to use more money. We don't need to do that, so I decreased there. Next one would be my election. And technically, that one is not changing either, although it will look like it, just because this year was a non-election, so really low numbers in it. Next year is a midterm. So numbers are just going back up to what they were previously, but that money's always been accounted for in that area.
That, since you're talking about elections, it was brought up at the commissioners' meeting on Monday, and I know the department heads talked about it. There's some changes in state law that will affect the entire county, not just your department.
Correct. And I had printouts, but I wasn't prepared that I was going to be presenting early, but I can talk about it. 2 new laws. First one is the clerk's office must be closed on election day. So I say that we are still going to be here. We are only going to be doing election duty work. We are closed for day-to-day business. So that will affect the judge, all the
Which we
judges,
forgot.
prosecutor.
We were gonna bring it up to the judges, how they wanted to handle it.
And I've already talked to them, and they're kind of talking amongst themselves. So that does change stuff for public defender, prosecutor, probation, the courts. They're still going to be doing day-to-day business. We are not. And that can cause some hiccups within the day since the clerk processes all their stuff. So we're looking towards that. Second rule that came into effect is that government employees, so let's say somebody in Susan's office wanted to work elections for me, they can take the day off from the auditor's office, they will get paid, and they do not have to use PTO. And then I will also pay them through the election process. And it does not count as ghost employment or anything like that. So that's kind of a big change too. We used to have a lot of people in the county who worked elections for us when we had election days off. We lost a lot of them once they were non-holidays. So now it's an option for them to work for us again.
Years ago, when we were still using the courthouse as an election site, there were 4 precincts downstairs. We closed the actual courthouse. The entire county was closed. We could use their employees, whatnot. They changed that when we didn't use the courthouse for an election site any longer. But I think that probably the most, because you're talking about 2 days every other year, and then I forgot about city elections, because then you got city elections. So 3 years out of 5, there would be 2 days of additional time off, or if you just close the county on election day.
Dottie's looking into all that. She got some figures and numbers around, and I think she sent stuff out to everyone. So still in the talking phase.
Because many other counties already do.
Sure.
You're closed,
And I do have,
on election day.
and I do have IC codes and House Enrolled Act numbers for that. Again, I don't have them on me because I wasn't prepared to present right now. Correct. Yes, so that I would pay them out of election budget. They would still get paid for their day of work, and they don't have to use PTO. Yeah, and I can forward that. I have it on my computer. I can just forward it to all of you guys. And then I'll provide the IC codes. So any questions on election, or am I good to go to clerk's budget? Okay. Clerk's budget, again, no significant changes. As you all know, I am new clerk this year. I had some people retire at the end of last year, a couple part-time and a couple full-time. I did not rehire right away. I was trying to see if we could make other things work, combine some jobs. For the most part, we have. I did replace one of the part-time, and I just hired 1 full-time. So I still have eliminated 2 full-time and 1 part-time positions. So I am down 2 full-time and 1 part-time. I was down 3 full-time and 2 part-time, and I've hired 1 of each. So I have saved money in that aspect. I think if I were to ever need to hire anyone else, it would be if traffic comes back to us, which that's all up in the air. That's Butler City Court at the moment. That could change the trajectory of the criminal division in my office, but can't say anything on that now until it happens. So that's the only thing I would foresee needing to hire again for. Yes, it is.
And some of those positions were here long before your
E-filing, and we
stuff
needed
went.
the number
So
for
that's-
paper
Yeah.
filing. So e-filing has actually cleared up a lot of stuff for us, and we don't need quite as many employees. So. I did not put in for any raises per your request. I did attach the other form. And I put in what I consider just to be, like Ben said, a cost of living increase for the employees. So, other than that, that is all I have.
Anybody have any questions for Dana? Thank you, Dana.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Excuse me.
Thanks for flexing, Dana. Appreciate it.
So, Neil?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, in terms of the actual budget that I put in for the request, it's almost identical to last year. I know that county money was tight this year. There, I think, maybe one or two line item changes. The biggest one being for the service fees for the Axon agreement that you guys had already approved. Again, the majority of that contract, the 5-year contract, was paid for out of funds that were allocated to pay for an open deputy prosecutor position. That paid for, I think, about 2/3 of that contract this year. So the remaining 1/3 will be paid over the next 4 years. You will see that as an added expense in the general fund. I put a note on there. It's under account 32780. So again, that's the most significant change. I actually reduced some of the other line items that we weren't using the last couple of years. So all in all, the budget is very, very similar to what you would have reviewed last year. On a positive note, we've been able to leverage technology pretty effectively. First started with the transition to the prosecutor case management filing system that we weren't using before I took over. That streamlined things tremendously. And now with Axon, that's been another huge benefit for our staff. So in terms of needing staff, we're about where I think we should be in terms of non-attorney staff. I noted to Amy, I sent her a report that IPAC just sent to me about 2 weeks ago, maybe 10 days. And it was essentially a comprehensive study on caseload management for attorney and non-attorney staff positions in terms of compensation, the need for a recommended number of attorneys per office. It comes as no surprise, almost every county needs more prosecutors. I saw a handful that were above the red line, but our recommended, and the numbers are based upon how they weight the case allocation for public defenders in large part. So what time commitment they have per type of case. Obviously, more serious cases require more time. I only bring that up to give you guys an idea where we're at. Because I think it's probably going to be coming up again in the future that IPAC's going to be requesting the state contribute toward deputy prosecutor pay. That was in the request this year. It got taken out of the bill later in the session. But right now, the recommended number of attorneys for our office is, I think, 7.95, so roughly 8. As we currently sit today, we're at 4.4. Part-time attorneys are considered 0.6. And so we're a little over half. That will improve, assuming our intern passes the bar later this month. We'll be up to 5.4. But in terms of workflow, I think we're doing all right. I just want to give you guys an idea of what the numbers look like. They're actually pretty similar to our neighboring counties, with the exception of Allen. They're obviously they have far fewer attorneys than the allocation suggests. But in terms of our workflow in-house, I think we're doing all right. The only other big issue, and it's not really anything that I expect you guys to be concerned about for 2026, I did put it in the 5-year plan. And I actually asked Commissioner Miller if I could get a copy of the space allocation study. I don't presume it's going to suggest our office moves, but I think we can definitely better utilize the space in our office. We have added, I guess, replaced one of the paralegals with the victim advocate, and the need for a more private setting is pretty apparent. Obviously, you guys know that we're dealing with some pretty sensitive issues, and we have our conference room in the back. Unfortunately, we have an office that enters in through there. So I have some ideas. I don't think it's anything I want to throw at you guys for 2026, but I want to put it on the horizon for 2027 to at least consider it after we've looked at the space study and determine what that may look like. So that's really about all I have, unless you guys have questions about any of it.
Neil, we made some changes, I believe, to benefits. Has that helped with your part-time prosecutors, or that more public defender than prosecutor's office?
It was certainly appreciated first. I don't know that we really had anybody who I was afraid of leaving because of that issue, but it certainly helps retain those who may be on the fence. So I think it was a good thing long-term. I don't know if it would have had an impact immediately, but in the future, once people leave, it's obviously a more attractive job to somebody who then we'd have to hire.
So mentioned the cost sharing with the state. That did come out of the bill this year and last year because they're really pushing to do some type of an arrangement like we have with the public defender's office with providing a certain percentage. Right now it's 40% in the public defender's office, doing something like that with prosecutors, which because the only, well, the salaries we don't really have any control over. It rolls down from judges' salaries, and we do a percentage for prosecutor and everybody else. I don't know, did the state even give any raises to the judges this year? I don't know.
No. So the way that works is the prosecutor makes the same as the trial court judge, and the chief deputy makes a percentage of what the prosecutor and judges make. And typically, in years past, we'll get a letter from the Supreme Court sometime around May advising what the raises will be for the next year. This year, they said that because of the equivalent level positions in the executive branch weren't getting a raise, that we weren't getting a raise. I found odd because I thought they got a pretty big raise in December. But be that as it may, we did not get raises this year. So our salary in terms of Skylar Casto, the chief deputy, and I will be the same for this next fiscal year, which started July 1 for the state. We'll see what next year holds. But in terms of the reimbursement, I can kind of advise what the proposal in general was, because I think it would benefit the county if they would adopt it. Essentially, it was very similar to what the public defender model in terms of reimbursement looked like. So the county would basically be responsible for 60% of that salary. The one strategic, I guess, move from IPAC's perspective, so the Indiana Prosecuting Attorneys Council, was to basically put a floor on the salary that was the minimum acceptable for that type of position, and I think it was around $104,000 was their proposal. I know IPAC is going to continue to really push that at the state level, so we'll see what happens. But in terms of cost to the county, and that's for a full-time position. So I think last year you allowed a raise for that part-time position that would still be about $20,000 under what the state IPAC has recommended for our position. But I think we're okay on that for now. But again, I think long-term it could be a benefit to the county.
Anybody else have any questions for Neil? Thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Neil. Oh, too late. Too late.
In my clerk's budget, there is one line item that I am asking for some money. Last year, the treasurer's office generously gave us a cash counter of theirs, and it has been very beneficial to our office. We get a lot of large cash bills that come in, so it has helped us count the money properly. It also helps detect fraudulent bills. We get some large child support payments as well, so I would like to have a cash counter on the civil side of the office. And then it also benefits if one goes down for maintenance, because we do have an annual maintenance contract with it, if it breaks, et cetera. So that is one thing I am asking for more money. It's like a $3,500 machine, and then the maintenance contract within that is above and beyond that.
Usually the case counter's about $3,500.
Yeah, it depends on what model we get. I just kind of overshot it. Sandy had sent me what she bought last year. I can't say that it's going to cost exactly the same because everything's going up. So I inflation a little bit. I added a little more to it. It could come in under that, but that's what I budgeted for.
Now, there is an unwritten rule, if you leave the microphone, you can't come back.
I don't want to come back. Okay, I got my strong arm Lena back here.
Okay, well, it is now lunchtime. We're free till 1 o'clock. So we will be in recess.
Where are we going to lunch?